Good morning. Can we just have a seat and trickle as we begin our program today? My name is Paul, one of the co-directors here. We have an exciting day today and morning for you. And then afterwards, we have our lending matchmaking. So make sure you're going to stay around to really just get much needed resources for your business. I'm going to introduce my board chair, Sydney Dow, to go ahead and introduce and welcome, kick off the show. So please welcome Sydney Dow.
Good morning, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed members of the Asian Chamber of Commerce, distinguished guests, entrepreneurs, and small business owners, welcome to our business conference and lending matchmaking event. We are thrilled to see so many visionary minds gathered here today, all united by a shared commitment to resiliency, growth, and prosperity. In a rapid changing world where challenges seem to appear around every corner, it takes a special kind of determination not to just survive, but to thrive. The theme of this conference, The Journey Ahead, encapsulates the essence of what we aim to achieve here and beyond. Throughout the day, we have brought together a diverse group of speakers, each a trailblazer in their own right, to shed light on the pressing topics that define our business landscape. You will hear topics ranging from positioning your business to be sellable, learning about labor laws, understanding the current economic outlook and the importance of business credit, how to get in front of buyers, and integrating technology into your business. I hope you all are prepared for all of that content today. Stay to the end to hear from our special guest of ours who is at the forefront of artificial intelligence and is the conversational designer of Apple, Mike Chop. He will guide you on learning about ChatGPT, I'm sure everyone have dabbled in that, and how to integrate this into your businesses. As we gather here, we encourage you to immerse yourself in this enriching experience, exchange ideas, and glean insights. But our commitment to your success doesn't stop here. We are excited to announce that immediately following our engaging sessions, we have a unique opportunity for all of you. The Lenders Matchmaking, generously administered by the Small Business Administration. It's an opportunity for our small businesses and enterprising entrepreneurs to connect directly with a network of lenders who are equally dedicated to nurturing your dreams. This is your chance to pitch your financial needs, to make those game-changing connections, and to secure the resources that will propel your ventures to new heights. The Asian Chamber of Commerce has been serving the community for the past 33 years, helping businesses like yours understand the opportunities and pointing you to essential resources and funding as you grow and be prosperous. I want to recognize our board members and staff who are in the room. Please stand up to be recognized. I would like to especially thank and recognize Tuan Nguyen and Mike Pankratz, who are co-chairs for this business conference and expo. They created the vision of our event today. Hey, Tuan. Mike couldn't be here with us, but Tuan is here. Also, this whole conference is not possible without the following organizations. Their generous support has allowed this event to be completely free of charge. Comcast, Memorial Hermann, Shell, JPMorgan Chase Bank, HEB, Comerica Bank, Port Houston, Capital One Bank, Houston Community College, Wells Fargo, Malone Bailey, and Goldman Sachs. We would also like to recognize the various community partners who we work alongside to make sure our businesses are thriving. Thank you again to our sponsors and partners for making this possible. Once again, welcome to the Asian Chamber of Commerce Business Conference and Lenders Matchmaking. We are honored to have you here, and we are excited for the day ahead. Let's make the most of this remarkable opportunity, and we press forward to the journey ahead towards a brighter future. I want to bring up our community navigator partners to say a few words, followed by our generous partners at Houston Community College, who have graciously allowed us to host our event at this beautiful state-of-the-art space. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Good, good. My name is John. This is Peter. We have Soli and Nikki. We represent the Community Navigator Pilot Program, and Peter's going to tell you a little bit about our mission.
All right, so the hey guys, my name is Peter. The Community Navigator Pilot Program is actually a government-funded program powered by the SBA. We represent the U.S. Pan-Asian American Chamber of Commerce, part of this Community Navigator Pilot Program. This program was a program created during the CARES Act. It's the last of the CARES Act bill that came out as a response to fight Asian hate by supporting Asian American businesses. Our mission is to reach out and advocate for Asian American businesses and help them with different services and give them free access to information to free government services that you may or may not be aware of. Some of these services include things like business law, business consulting, legal services, digital marketing, point of sale services. So we offer a variety of services that we provide free at no cost to you. And our specific market is for Asian American business owners. However, we are also the bridge that's gonna gap that communication as well too. So if you have anyone that speaks a different language and is not familiar with the process of applying for grants, applying for loans, doing grant writing, even searching for loans, we are the team that's gonna help you bridge that gap. If we cannot help you find the answers, then we will find someone else who will. John, anything to add?
100%, you did good there.
Yeah. So we're gonna be out here, all representatives, myself, John, Nikki, and Sully. We're gonna be right out there, the first table on the far left, closest to the exit. Before you dash out of here, make sure you guys stop by us, grab our information, grab one of us. You may not need the help, but you may know somebody else who's in business, who even wants to create a startup, who wants to improve their HR, who wants consulting services for legal services, or even can use free access to different grants. We get information all the time directly from federal government, typically 24 hours before the grant's actually released. And so we get information for different grants. We can also connect you to different financial institutions. We have a network of financial institutions that work with the federal government that are willing to specifically have a certain amount of money allocated for Asian Americans, right? Specifically business owners. So if you or anyone you know may need additional help, or just, hey, want a good contact or have a good conversation, make sure you come out here and reach one of us, okay? Grab our information and network with us. And then, pass our information along. We're here for you guys. So hopefully together we can help build the Asian American community. John and myself are here from Dallas, Texas, coming down here to support our liaisons down here in Houston. And together, we're coming out here on a united front to help represent the Asian community and help bolster all of our successes together. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our beautiful space here at the West Houston Institute at Houston Community College. On behalf of our board, our administration, and our staff, I'd like to welcome you, and I just wanted to say how important it is, the partnership that we have with the Asian Chamber of Commerce. It's been a long-standing partnership. We are really happy to have you all here today. They've got wonderful resources available. I encourage you to visit the booths outside. And I would like to say we are in the hurricane season. I am the director of the corporate college here at Houston Community College. We are the contract training arm of the college. We work with small to medium-sized businesses to develop customized workforce solutions. So the fact that we're in the hurricane season, we're launching our business continuity planning, helping businesses to be prepared in the event that there is a disaster, a data breach, anything, so that you will be prepared and portable prior to the event, during the event, and after the event. My staff is outside. There is funding available to support training for small businesses through the Texas Workforce Commission, and we have those funds available. So I encourage you, my staff is outside at a booth. I encourage you to stop by and to avail yourself to all the wonderful resources through the speakers and the exhibits today. And I'd like to just say, enjoy your conference. Thank you.
Let's see if I can get this right. I don't know where I'm pointing. There we go. Now it will work. Now that makes sense. I'll try it again. Good morning, everyone. How you doing? I need to see a round of applause for Barbara Gallo and Paul Gore for putting on such a terrific event. And I'll tell you what, when I get an email from Paul, I know what the answer is supposed to be. The answer is, yes, Paul, I will be there. And not only that, but he did the agenda. So Paul says, this is what you're going to talk about today. This is what everybody needs to hear. So no problem. We're going to talk about what SBA sees as the top issues facing small businesses, how we did and can help with that. And then a special note on resilience, as Jennifer pointed out, we are in hurricane season. I don't know which meteorologist you watch, mine is Frank, but next month is supposed to get pretty dicey. So we want to be ready. So let's get going. This is what we see right now as the big challenges with small businesses in Houston. Not surprisingly, but the way this graph works is that's the percentage of time when we talk to somebody, what they want to talk to us about. So about 75% of the time, when I'm somewhere like this and a small business says, hey, Tim, I want to talk to you, this is what they want to talk about. So first on the list is money. Lots of things to talk about with that. It might be they need some cash because they want to start a business. It might be they have a business and they're looking to grow it. It could be that they have a business that's not doing well. But this is number one. In that general category, they're also asking about grants. Tell everybody you know, SBA doesn't grant money for small businesses. During COVID, we did a little bit. And we do have a special grant program I'll tell you about in a minute. But otherwise, what we do is we make it easier for you to get access to money, and I'll talk about that. But this is about 75% of the time. The next one, roughly half of the time, is, Tim, I need to grow. Tell me how I can grow my business. And it's not that people don't understand the concept of how to grow. I think right now it's because in the last 3 to 4 years, our businesses have changed around us. The market's different, our customers are different, the way you do things is different. So you might have a 40-table restaurant and you're used to it being full every day at lunch. And now you might have 20 people in that restaurant at lunch, or even 10. What do? You've got to pay the bills. So we can help you with that. We can help you with that. The next one is staffing. If 10 people came and talked to me today, 3 of you will probably talk about, Tim, I can't find good people and I can't keep them. So that's pretty common. And then what I put in the category of everything is businesses that I would put in the category, let's say you know how to make the best barbecue sauce ever made, but you may not know how to run your business. And you need help with everything outside of making that barbecue sauce. Okay, same thing, we got you covered. We can help with that. So in the context of what we did last year, I want to kind of explain what SBA does that can help with those 4 things I just mentioned to you. First is what's called SBA lending. Well, we don't do loans. What we do is we work with organizations that have the money, banks and other lenders. There's plenty of non-bank lenders out there. There's probably some here in the audience. Are there any SBA lenders in the audience? Hey, there's one there. There's one there. All right, so now you know some you can go to, or any more? All right, there's at least 2 here. 3, all right, and they brought their checkbooks with them. So what we do is we guarantee the loan that they would make to you. By definition, they see you as really high risk. I think you're awesome, but they see you as high risk. And because they see you as high risk, we step in and say, you know what, if you loan this lovely lady $1 million, and if the worst thing happens and she can't pay it back, we will pay $750,000. So for them, there's fairly little risk. Now, what if she exports her goods? In that case, we will cover $900,000. So they only have a risk of $100,000. So the whole point is to make it easier for the bank to say, yeah, we'll do a loan to this small business because SBA is standing right behind them. They've got their back. So we do a lot of this. Last year, it was only about 1,000 loans last year, and that's not that much because there's 850,000 small businesses in my district. So I can tell you that comparatively across the nation, those are really good numbers, but we're trying here through a gentleman named Winston LeBay, if you know who that is, who works for me. Winston's working hard to change that 1,000 number into 10,000. So we're working really hard to do that here in Houston. So there's lots of other things that we do with lending, and you can see some stuff on that slide, like who some of the top lenders are. You may know some of those. But the bottom line is we are here to support your business or your dreams. If they require getting money, we probably have a solution for you. Let's say that you're somebody that's got a credit score of 500 and you're 6 months behind on all your loans, on all your bills. Hopefully that's none of you here, but if it is, there is hope. You let us know, you just be transparent with us, we will get you on a path so that you can get the funding to start or grow your business. Okay, next thing. We won't spend much time on this. SBIR, that means Small Business Innovation Research. This is a grant program, but it's very special. It's meant to grant money to small businesses that are going to invent something that the federal government cares about. A lot of this is going to be biomed. A lot of this is going to be information technology. So there's okay, anybody have one of those little vacuum cleaners that runs around your house like a robot sucking stuff up? Roomba? I have one of those. It was funded with this. The company that did that is in robotics. They wanted to develop some particular robotics. They needed the seed capital to do it. They didn't have the money at the time. We were able to give them around a couple of $1 million to develop their robotics model, which happened to turn into the Roomba. It also turned into a bunch of other robotics. So we do, you can see the numbers there, about $135 million a year in grants of that kind in this area. So if you are a firm that does research, you create things, then this may be something you want to look into. If you are a business that is really doing well, you've been around 10, 15 years, you've got 100 employees, you're just doing really well, but now you want to grow exponentially. Now you want to go from Houston to every major city in the US, something like that. Well, we can connect you with SBA-backed venture capital firms that can invest in your business and help get you to that next big, huge growth level. So this isn't for somebody that wants to start a business tomorrow. The odds are very good they're not going to invest in your business. That's what the SBA lending is for. But if you have a really strong business that's doing well now and you're looking at growing like crazy, this is it. Anybody ever heard of the Good Feet store? If you watch TV at all right now, especially if you watch the evening news, then you'll see ads for the Good Feet store. That's a SBIC in Houston that recently invested in that company to do this marketing campaign to grow the business. So outreach, what we call also counseling. We touched 59,000 small businesses last year, directly and through our partners. We have 4 partners we work with, and I'll tell you about them real quickly, but between them, they have about 200 people here in the Houston area ready to sit down with you and work with you on your business. Who wants to guess how much they charge? 0. Why? Because we paid for it. Exactly right. Yeah, so I like to joke and say, as long as you paid your taxes, you get it for free. So the Small Business Development Center, they have 13 locations in my district. They're part of the University of Houston. We grant quite a lot of money to them so they can exist. The SCORE organization, they have about 150 to 160 mentors here in the Houston area. Outstanding organization with wonderful people that care about helping small businesses. And we have 2 women's business centers. So the journey for a woman starting and growing her business is different. And sometimes it's nice to do it in a female-centric environment. So we have those partners. They helped 29,000 businesses last year, hand in hand, face to face. So we do an awful lot of that. So if you fall in that category of somebody that needs any help at all, even if you're not sure, give us a call. We'll get you connected, let you have a meeting with one of these people and see if it will make a difference for you. So we call these things that I just mentioned to you our 4 C's. We help small businesses with the counseling that you need, whether it's exposing you at a time like this and talking to you while we're here, or whether it's putting you hand in hand with one of our counselors or mentors or advisors. We help you find the money that you need, lots of different ways to help you with that. There's another couple of things that I haven't really talked much about, but I will mention it. If you're a business that's been doing pretty well, you've been around for a couple of years, you're solid, you have solid financials, this may be the time you want to start doing business with the United States government. We buy more of everything than anyone. And we have a target of 23% of all contracts go to small businesses. And we mean it when we say that, because we beat that goal. This year, it's 28% that we issued to small businesses. Just here in Houston, $1.5 billion were awarded to small businesses with federal contracts. So this is a phenomenal way to grow. It's really a game changer if you're ready for it. So if anybody want to know more about it, feel free to ask me, or you can ask Dan Liu at the SBDC table. He knows all about it. And speaking of Dan Liu, Dan, raise your hand. So there's Dan, outstanding resource for the community. Dan is with the SBDC. He's one of their top folks. I tell you, I've sat talking to businesses before with Dan, and the advice he gives is outstanding. Now, I will tell you, he's very direct. So if he thinks your plans are silly, he'll tell you, okay, let's stop talking about that. Let's talk about something that can succeed. All right, but Dan is phenomenal. So you need any help, go see that gentleman. Now, the last thing to talk about is crisis. That wasn't on my list of the big needs of small businesses, right? I told you about 4 things on there. Being able to handle a crisis was not one of them. It should be. So take note of that. If something's going to happen to your business, it could be, let's see what kind of slide I have. Look at that. It could be another hurricane. We know another hurricane's going to happen, right? It's just a matter of time. It could be another pandemic. You know, there's like, 3 new strains of COVID floating around right now? Could be that your bank account gets hacked. That's a crisis. I mean, it's your crisis. It's not the whole community, but it's your crisis. Could be somebody really important to your business is in an accident and can no longer work or passes away. How are you going to react to that crisis? We want you to be resilient. So you heard Jennifer talk about what they're doing at ACC with resilience. You want to pay attention to what they're doing at ACC. But our network of partners I mentioned to you, if nothing else, I would like you to contact them when this conference is over and tell them, I want you to give me some advice on how I can be ready for a disaster happening to my business. I'll give you a quick little story. Anybody knows me knows I love telling stories. There's this little bitty restaurant. Man, it's got 10 tables in it down in Bel Air. And they were doing fine. The people in the area love them. They make really high quality stuff, all scratch, fresh ingredients. They even make their own almond milk. They make their own marmalade, that kind of place. So people that go there love it. But with 10 tables, it's probably not a whole lot of customers. COVID comes along. Ordinarily, you would expect COVID would have just put them out of business. Absolutely not. They were ready. They had cash put aside so that they were able to pay their employees during COVID while the restaurant was closed. And rather than go to the restaurant and serve meals, they all went to the restaurant wearing masks, of course, and being safe. And they talked about when we reopen, how do we make this restaurant better? They redid their inventory systems. They changed the layout of their kitchen so it would be more efficient. They came up with a new menu. They started developing plans for a branch in the Heights. The pandemic was just an opportunity for them to pause and be stronger. That's what I want for everybody here. So prepared for the next crisis, whatever that crisis is, that when it occurs, you say, no problem, I'm ready for it. You don't sweat it. You don't say, oh my God, how am I going to keep the doors open? How am I going to make the payroll? You already know. You've already got the plan. So don't be the business that gets caught surprised. You might think it won't happen to you. It's probably a matter of time till it does. So start getting ready right away. And that slide is there because Paul Gore told me I can't speak unless I make sure I bring this up. So my last comment. Everything we talk about isn't just a big box of smiley faces, but we are here to try to make you smile. We want to help you. We want to help your business to succeed, whether it's those 4 common needs that I showed you earlier, or it's anything else to do with your business. You come to us. If we don't know how to solve your problem, or if we can't directly help you, we will connect you to the people that can. That's it for me, Paul. Thank you.
Before we have our next presenter, I want to just pause here. Make sure you see the agenda. I know there's some issues with the QR code. You can see the speaker's bio. And so we'll start our business presentations right now. Would you please welcome Nicole?
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me well? Good. My name is Nicole. I am a tax partner at Malone Bailey LLP. A local CPA firm located at the West Chase area, so it's really close to the HCC West campus. So we are a full-service CPA firm providing all the accounting and tax service. So, you know, a lot of our members and teammates are Asians, so we truly understand the Asian culture. And besides the headquarters in Houston, we also have 2 offices in China. One is in Beijing and the other one is in Shenzhen. So, you know, if, you know, language is something that you prefer to, you know, talk in a different way, we possibly could help. So before I start my presentation today, let me do a quick survey. Please raise your hand if you are a business owner looking forward to sell your business in the next several years. Good, good, awesome. And do we have any entrepreneurs who are looking for buying a business? Anyone? Good. And I assume that we have lots of professionals here who try to help our entrepreneurs to buy or sell business, right? Professionals, bankers, attorneys, accountants, valuation specialists, everyone. So I hope that today, you know, this presentation can, you know, give you some hints, some ideas, something to think about before you enter into your next transaction. So, it goes too fast. Just keep going back and forth by yourself. Sorry about that. Sorry. Yeah, so sellers, a lot of people here are Asian. I am a first generation immigrant. When I came here, I have something to go through, and I'm sure that if you are ready to sell your business, you have gone through those difficulties, like cultural difference, language barriers, right? So you build your business kingdom by working hard for many years, and now you want to sell it. So your goal is to sell it at a high price, right? So it's great to have a huge gain, but at the same time, nobody wants to pay more tax, right? We want to save tax. So this is one of the goals that you want to realize. If possible, you would like to pay for the capital gain tax, which is about 20%, rather than paying the ordinary tax, which may be up to 37%. And at the same time, when you sell your business, you may be ready for a happy retirement life, or you may be ready for your next gen, or you want to explore something new. So you don't want to think about this business anymore after you sell it. You want to be risk-free, just put it aside and try something new. And most importantly, maybe, after you have a good price with the buyer, you want to make sure that you can collect the money in full. You don't want much contingency, or maybe you want to have some upside if the business go well after, you sell it, you may get some bonus. So that's what the sellers want. On the other side, for buyers, what we want. Even though today's topic is about, preparing to sell your business, but I think transaction is a win-win thing. We want win-win situation. So we do not only think about the sellers, we also think about the buyers. What do buyers want? So you want to, get a deal, basically. Every time we buy something, we want to get a deal. Also, money or funding could be an issue at the very beginning, especially for young entrepreneurs. So you may look for other options to fund the purchase, right? So we have the lenders here that will be your good resources, and some younger entrepreneur may want to, thank you so much. Yeah, may want to explore some other options, like, what if I give the seller some of the stock so that he can enjoy the future profit, right? So that's another option. Then after that, for the buyer, you want to think about, how I could recover my costs. So saving tax or taking tax deduction could be one of the major ways to recover your costs faster. So you think about, hey, what would happen on my tax return if I do it, or if I purchase this business in a certain way. You want to think about it. And the last item you think about is that, hey, right now I buy something. I don't know what is hidden there. Would that come with a lawsuit, or maybe some kind of unfavorable contracts? What do I do? So these would be the considerations for the buyers. So now, before we talk about how to come to a common ground, let's talk about the types of acquisitions that could happen. So from legal perspective, we basically have two forms. We either purchase the stock of the company, or we purchase the asset of a company, right? So what's the difference? If you purchase the stock, here you go. You got the company, you got the bank account, you get everything, including the liabilities, So if there's any legal issue, contracts along with the company, including the customer list, it's all yours. You don't need to think about, the seller keeping something, right? So that's the good side about buying the stock. But the downside could be that, well, again, you don't know what you get. You could see the assets, but how about the liability? Most of the liabilities may be invisible, it's some kind of paper hidden in one or two computers, you don't know. So that could be something that you need to think about. And I'm not saying that buying the stock or taking over the liability is a wrong thing. We will talk about, how to, protect yourself later on. So buying asset, that's really simple. you tell the seller what you want, and you tell the seller what you don't want, and then you guys negotiate the price, right? So this is the legal perspective of, acquisition. However, for tax purpose, we have a lot more options. So for tax, if we purchase asset, we have a concept called step-up basis. Because when you negotiate the price of certain asset, you talk about the value, and it must be a fair market value that both parties will agree on. So that value will become the tax basis of what you purchase. Really straightforward. If you think that a certain IP worth $1 million, you pay $1 million, you got $1 million of tax basis. And then you can take tax deduction via the amortization of this IP. And the total deduction over the next 15 years would be $1 million. Very straightforward. However, if you make this deal in a stock acquisition, the situation may be different. So let's say that it's the same, $1 million. You purchase a company, and the only asset in the company is that IP, right? So now you think about, hey, Nicole, can I still take the tax amortization over 15 years? The answer may be no. The reason is that the format is different. So your basis of $1 million actually stuck in the stock of the company. So you could only recover that basis from deduction only when you sell your business to the next buyer. So you think, hey, but I think that $1 million is not about the company, it's not about the stock, but about the IP. The problem is that the IP was possibly created by the previous owner. When you self-created something, you may not have any tax basis, or maybe the previous owner already took the tax deduction for the total cost that he spent to create that IP. So you take the carryover basis for everything inside the company, and the IP possibly only have a 0 tax basis. So inside the company, on the company's tax return, you may not able to take any deduction. The only way to recover is to sell the business to the next person, which is not something you plan to do in the next 5 years. So you kind of, missing the fast tax deduction in that way, right? So, and then also we mentioned about, the legal risk. So maybe at some point, in some situation, people may want to form the M&A as a stock sale, right? Stock acquisition. Everybody would be happy about it because it protects, it provides the legal protection, for the seller and the buyer. But at the same time, maybe for tax purpose, people want to go the other way. We may want to go through a asset acquisition for tax purpose so that, the buyer can take more tax deduction faster. So here we come with a Section 338H election. Basically what this does is that, okay, legally it's a stock acquisition, but on the tax side, it's an asset acquisition. So it creates a win-win situation for both the buyer and seller. Another format we could think about is installment sale. Sometimes our buyer could get the funding from lenders. Sometimes you may not be able to do that. And maybe the seller is willing to take some risks, on the collection. So they say that, okay, it's okay, you pay me over the next 3 or 5 years. So it creates an installment sale. But you think about it from the seller's perspective. Okay, I say that I sell it for $1 million. My capital gain is $800,000. But I do not see the money in my bank account, and now the IRS is chasing me for a tax, for a tax that is like, $160,000. I don't have the money to pay because the first installment I received is only $100,000, So the installment sale concept can kick in the tax world. So basically we are telling the IRS that, hey, I have a gain. The percentage is that much, 80% of profit. But the first installment I got in 2023 is only $100,000. So I would say I recognize $80,000 of gain, and then I pay tax on it. That's fair, right? That's fair to your bank account. The last thing that I want to mention is really something I think is really valuable. That is a special rule. If you are a owner of a LLC or a partnership and you are looking forward to sell your business, again, you want a capital gain treatment. You don't want to pay 37% of ordinary income tax. And then on the seller side, they want to get a faster tax deduction on everything. So if you are selling a LLC or partnership, it's a win-win situation because for the buyer, you are taking the asset acquisition tax treatment. You will enjoy the fast tax deduction treatment. And then on the seller side, you are going to pay capital gain tax, which is around 20%. So that's the art of tax planning. Before you sell or before you buy, think about whether it's possible to make your business into a LLC or partnership. So the next 2 slides is just a quick table summary about what I just mentioned. So feel free to take some pictures. I'm not going to go through that anymore. So this is for the buyer, if you want to take a picture. And come on. Oh, sorry. I think I'm not very good at technology. This is the buyer side, okay. So the last slide I have is about some miscellaneous points that I want to bring out. So as a seller, you want to sell your business at a high price. So the best thing to do is not to, retire from the day that you think about sell. It's to retire after you sell your business. So keep working hard on your business. Keep increasing the value of your business so that you would, sell it for a higher price. And then you also need to be prepared because, at some point, the buyer may involve some valuation specialist to think about the price of the deal. So everything could be negotiated. Everything, could be being evaluated. So it's not only about the physical asset we see or some kind of pattern that we could verify on the paper. It could also include some customer list, employment contract if somebody will stay in the business. So think about all these factors and be prepared to, discuss with the evaluator, about the value of your business. Now, the buyer may request, to do a due diligence against the business. They may do it internally, or they may hire a third-party professional like CPA to conduct the due diligence. And the due diligence could look at everything. It's about the buyer's option. We can look at the financial, we can look at the loan, we can look at, the contract, we can look at the compliance, including legal compliance and tax compliance. So from the seller's perspective, you need to prepare because somebody is going to request the information from you. The faster that you provide the information, the better, right? And if you, do a self-check, if something is missing, maybe you want to take care of that before you present your business to the buyer. The last thing is that non-compete. Non-compete agreement is really important because some sellers, after they sell their business, they may want to, create another business that may be in the same area. For example, if I have a Chinese restaurant, I sell it to somebody. Maybe I want to, open another restaurant next door, right? So we need to have some kind of non-compete agreement that would make both parties happy and comfortable. From the buyer's perspective, they want you to just completely, go out, retire. But from the seller's perspective, think about what you could give up and what you don't want to give up. So again, everything can be negotiated in the deal. I think that's it. Thank you, everyone. I will be around until noon, so if you have any question, please feel free to talk to me. Thank you.
Good morning. So my name is Lucy Garcia. I'm with the U.S. Department of Labor's Wage and Hour Division. I am with the government like SBA, and believe it or not, I am here to help you. So be honest. How many people here have ever heard of the Wage and Hour Division? 1, 2, look at that. We have a few hands in the room. This is fantastic. Okay, well, I'm gonna let y'all know the Wage and Hour Division has actually been in existence since the passage of the Fair Labor Standards Act. So that's the federal law, and guess how long ago this was? 1938. Yes, it made sense. Congress passed a law, and guess what? They created the Wage and Hour Division to enforce the law. So yes, this has been back since 1938, and still only a few of you. So now, as of today, when I end, you will all have heard of the Wage and Hour Division, right? So first, I want to thank you all for being fearless and being business owners. That is a very big responsibility, and I want to thank you so much for doing what you do to keep our economy going and being fearless and not being afraid, because you can be a perfect person within your trade and know your craft. That doesn't mean that you know all the laws that come with it. So guess what? I am your local person. I am your person with the Wage and Hour Division, with the Department of Labor, that helps teach these laws to you and provide you the resources that you need. We do have a table out in the back. We have William Liu with us. He's one of our senior investigators in the field, well-versed on all of the laws that we enforce. I believe he has over 24 years with the agency. Please speak to William. He's out there in the back with me. Also with me today, I have Martha Ford, who is an assistant district director with our office, also with over 20 years of experience in the field. Martha, if you could please raise your hand. I just want to stand. Thank you. Thank you, is with us today. This December will be my 17th year with the agency. So you see my title, it's quite long. I apologize, I didn't create it. I actually started as an investigator with the agency back in 2006. In 2011, they created this new role called the Community Outreach and Resource Planning Specialist. Our goal is to reach out and do things like this, where I build relationships with the community, and you're not scared to speak to me or to come to our office and receive the resources that you need to make sure that you're in compliance with all the laws that you're responsible for, at least with wage and hour, right? So now I understand this is kind of tricky. There it is. Okay. So if y'all see, Department of Labor has many different agencies. A lot of times people think that we're a one-stop shop. That's not true. In the Department of Labor, you have Bureau of Labor Statistics. All of y'all know that. That's the guys that come out with the stats, right? The numbers people. Those are going to tell you how the job market is. That's another agency within DOL. You have OSHA. A lot of people here know OSHA. How many people here have heard of OSHA before? I know, they always beat us. It's probably why they have double our budget. I know. So everyone knows about OSHA. We are a sister agency. So when you think of me, think of wage and hour. How many of y'all here in your business have a minimum wage poster posted? Good. If you have employees, make sure you have it posted where they can all see it. It's part of the law. That poster is where you're going to see WHD, wage and hour. That's us, okay? So this I just want to share with you all so you can see all the different agencies that fall under the umbrella of Department of Labor. If you want to understand government and how it works, you need to understand all of the agencies and the umbrella they fall under, okay? Don't be scared to do that research and education, right? So, let's see. Oh, this is tricky, Paul. There we go, overview. Okay, so we do enforce many other labor laws within the agency. So it is jumping on me. Who did that? Are you doing stuff? Oh, it's you. Okay. All right, well, let's do that. Okay, so next slide. There we go. First, here's our mission: to promote and achieve compliance, right? We're going to do that to protect and enhance the welfare of our nation's workforce. This is the mission of our agency. Everything we do, from investigations to outreach, education, is to follow this mission. These are all the different labor laws we enforce. Now, I told you we first started with the Fair Labor Standards Act, right? That's the law that created our agency. That's minimum wage, overtime, child labor record keeping, but there's many more. How many of y'all know about the Family Medical Leave Act? There's a lot, right? Especially if you have 50 or more employees within a 75-mile radius. I'm telling you, I know this stuff. I know these talking points. Okay, also Davis-Bacon. How many of y'all know about all of that construction going on 69, right? Too soon to be, right? All of these multi-housing projects. Mr. Jeff recently said $1.5 billion of federal contracting. Guess what? We're the federal agency that enforces those contracts. We make sure that everyone on those projects are being paid in compliance. So that happens both in the forms of the Davis-Bacon Act, which is construction, right? And then also, if you jump across, you'll see the Service Contract Act, which is service. So anyone working in a federal building that's not a federal employee, janitorial services, so security guards, they might have a restaurant, right, in the cafeteria. All those workers are protected. These are federal contracts. Employee Protection Act. Not everyone can give a polygraph, right? Can administer it. There's rules to that. Garnishment laws. We are even in the fields and agriculture laws. When I was an investigator, I was out in the fields making sure that all farm workers were being paid correctly and working with farmers so that they know how to pay workers properly. We're everywhere. This little agency that you'd never even heard of is basically affects most people in the United States. So now you know. Right? How many of you are like, wow, I thought if I paid a salary, I didn't have to get overtime. Is that true? Nope, there's rules, there's laws, right? Just because you get salary doesn't mean you don't get overtime. So there's a lot that goes with that. I'm your person. Okay, so how do we do this? We do enforcement by regulations through investigations. Yes, we are investigators, okay? But at the same time, we do outreach to workers and to employers and education and partnerships. And I'm really lucky to work with Paul and Barbara because they bring me on a lot to provide education. And guess what? It's free. It's all free, right? Nothing against attorneys. I have a lot in my family, right? But we all know they charge by the hour, right? Guess what? You can get this information when laws change, because we know they do a lot when administrations change especially, right? Regulations are being rewritten. That can be very expensive. You can always come to me to provide you the information and guidance. I want to let you all know with that as well, the Pump Act, that is a new law. I have little cards for you in the back. Did you know that that the law has been expanded so that if you have employees and staff that are nursing, right, or going to nurse, or going to have a baby, and if they're planning on nursing, they're going to have to pump, right? And this law protects mothers to be able to do that in the workplace and not be retaliated against and receive that break time. So I have little cards for you. So I want you to go to our table. This is a Did You Know book, right? We also have it in, I believe, in Chinese and also in Thai. And I'll get more. If you need more resources in different languages, you need to let me know so that I can let my national office know that. We have another book here. This is all the different laws we enforce. This is for small businesses specifically. And there's some information on the Pump Act, the Family Medical Leave Act, all of that, that's us. So please, don't be shy, reach out to us. We're here for the tough questions, and I hope that y'all are not scared to reach out to me at any time. Thank you.
How many good mornings is that now? All right. Great program. Thanks for including me. So let's go ahead and just get my slides up. Before I get started, I do have to give you, I work for the Federal Reserve. I have a bit of a disclaimer, and so I'm letting you know that My opinions are mine and mine alone and not necessarily represented the views of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, bank presidents, officers, or anyone else associated with the Federal Reserve Bank in any way, shape, or form. Okay. I've got a couple of different things that I've got to share with y'all. To give you the sort of economic landscape is how this was built, and it's a regional economic update. So I'm going to have a bit of macro. I'm going to have a bit, because we can't not talk about what's happening at the macro level. I'm going to talk a bit about the Houston market and the job growth that we're seeing, the job slowing that we're seeing. I'm going to talk about the forecast and the outlook for the region, talk a bit about real estate. And of course, it's a regional outlook, and I'm an energy guy, so I'm going to talk a bit about energy. You're going to hear a bit about that. Before I do, I just want to say one thing. This is going to, okay. We would love to hear from y'all. So we have a number of different surveys. I'm going to talk about them during the presentation. I've got a slide in there where I'm going to show you some of the feedback that we've gotten. The Fed relies, you may not know this or hear much about it on the headlines on news, but the Fed actually listens to businesses a lot. And in fact, over the course of the pandemic, when traditional economic data was all thrown askew, businesses were calling the inflation that we were all seeing. They were calling the economic problems. You were living it on the ground, and it was that feedback that really gave us the color of what was going on. And so we do want to hear from you. We have a number of different surveys for retail, for services, for manufacturing, for oil and gas producers. We want to hear from you. You can check us out at dallasfed.org. We have a number of different surveys. There's a QR code towards the back of this presentation, and I've sent a PDF to Paul. You can all have it. That'll take you to a site where you can subscribe for all of our stuff, volunteer to participate in the survey, and if you're interested, you can tell my bosses if you think I did an okay job. All right, so I feel like I'm doing a disco move here. All right. So this is the obligatory tell you what I'm going to tell you slide. This is a summary of all the stuff I'm going to talk about. Macro outlook is improved. Headline inflation is slowing. Housing markets are proving pretty resilient. Local job growth is slowing. Exports from our region remain healthy. Lower energy prices are kind of slowing some things down for Houston. Yes, energy prices are still lower than they were last year, even though they are up here the last couple of weeks. I'll talk about that. And then, of course, overall, recession risks are receding, not necessarily gone. So there's that in the outlook. And then I'll give you, of course, the forecast. Overall, Texas job growth, about 2.5% is our official forecast. We've got some data revisions coming that's going to change some of the recent data, but I'll tell you right now, the Houston forecast is in the same range, about 2 to 3% job growth in Houston. That's a really healthy year for us. That's a very healthy year of growth. Slower than we've had in the pandemic recovery, of course, but still very healthy. Just so you know, when I say 2.5%, I want to tell you, our trend, our average rate that we should expect in a given year based on the last 25 years of data, 30 years of data, is 1.7%. So healthy growth. Hey, all right. So first off, GDP, we got to talk about it. What you're looking at in this chart is the last 4 quarters of GDP growth. So you've got the end of 2022, we had very strong GDP growth at about 2.5%. When you look at first quarter of 23, it slowed down, but still 2%. Now remember, at this point, we were getting close to the long forecast recession. This is the most discussed recession in history, right? We've been about a year away from recession for about a year and a half. But it doesn't seem to be materializing. The second quarter data, everyone was confident we were going to see more slowing. And not only did the initial data come out stronger than expected, but even as we updated that data, the second quarter data is actually very strong. It's coming in at over 2%. What you're looking at in the red, that's just something called the Atlanta Fed GDP Now. So if you're interested in GDP growth, the Atlanta Fed has a lot of really great resources for free on their website. A lot of the different Federal Reserve System banks do. Atlanta Fed GDP Now, based on the data that's available so far and a number of different indicators, it looks like the third quarter, the quarter that we're in right now, is coming in hot. And it's not just coming in hot. If you look at to the right of that first column there, that first set of columns, look to the right. These are the different contributions. What's driving that GDP growth? And you look, what is the red, where's the red? Where's the acceleration coming from? Inventory investment, there on the far right, 1.1. Companies are rebuilding their inventories, all right? But really, it's goods and services. It's the consumer. People are spending money on stuff still. We keep expecting to see more distress amongst consumers, and maybe there's definitely signs that that is showing up, but households' balance sheets, credit card balances, the consumer is actually in really good shape, all things considered. Many of you saw the headlines, I'm sure, $1 trillion of credit card debt for the first time. Did y'all see that in the last couple of weeks? Now, what if I told you that relative to household incomes, that is exactly where we were right before the pandemic? When you compare the debt that we're accumulating versus our actual flow of income, we're actually in pretty darn good shape. If you look at credit cards, we're back to where we were in the pandemic. It's not the highest it's ever been by far, and it's not the worst it's not the healthiest it's ever been by far. When you think about what's happened with mortgage rates over the last several years and people refinancing, you look at the total burden on households of their mortgage debt. It's actually fallen this year. You look at the total household obligations ratios. There's a keyword for you, obligations ratios. Again, you can go to the St. Louis Fed. They have a thing called FRED. I always just Google St. Louis FRED, and it'll give you the economic data, and it'll show you household obligations ratios. How much of people's budget every month is going to debt? And what you'll find is, at nearly any point in the last 40 years, we would have been envious of just how low our obligations ratios are. People have paid off a lot of debt in the last 10 years, and even in the last 4 years, because this was a weird recession in the pandemic. It's the only recession ever where personal income rose, in part because of government transfers. Now, I apologize. You might have to pull the shepherd's crook on me, Paul. Sometimes the spirit takes me, and I wind up taking too long. But you get on it. So labor markets, you all know, labor markets are very tight. Labor markets are very tight. I don't care how you measure it. Choose whatever measure of unemployment you want. It's a very tight labor market. You all see it. And when we ask businesses in our business surveys, what is their number one impediment to growth? I can't find labor. I'm not getting the applicants, as many applicants as I want. The applicants that I am getting want more money than I feel like I can give. And amongst those, relatively few of them have the requisite soft skills or skills that I'm looking for. Now, businesses always have had this challenge, but when you look at the numbers in our survey, it's particularly acute right now. Now, there are signs, as you'll see at the end of the presentation, that this is getting better from what it was 6 months ago, but it's still a very challenging labor market for businesses. And I'm a Fed guy, I gotta talk about inflation. This is inflation from 1980 all the way today. This is the Federal Reserve System's preferred measures of inflation, all right? We always hear about the CPI. We like this other thing called the PCE, Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index. If you really want to know why, we can talk about it in Q&A. But this measure of index, that's the blue line, that's the headline number, that's the stuff that you would see in the news reports when it comes out. The blue line has fallen to 3% in June, 3% year-over-year growth in June. So it's slowing. Now, a big chunk of that decline is because energy prices are lower. All right, so it oscillates around. But the Fed doesn't want to chase where inflation has been. We want to know where inflation is going. And so we prefer, our favorite measure is, prepare yourself for another long name here, the red line. The red line on this thing is called the trimmed mean PCE core inflation rate. We like long acronyms at the Fed. So the TMPCE inflation rate, the red line, that is a very good measure of core inflation. It doesn't arbitrarily throw out food and energy just because those tend to be volatile. And it gives us a good idea of what the underlying trend in inflation is, and it has not come down very much at all. When you look at that red line, it's eased a bit, but not much. And that suggests that inflation is sticking, and partly because of what's been happening with wages, which is not necessarily a bad story, but it's certainly a challenging one for many. So now then, that was faster than I was expecting, but okay. Texas, cities, when you look at the housing market, And looking at this data, I don't have Houston data, I have Texas data in this slide, but it's okay because most major markets around the world show roughly the same pattern. When you look at the red line, Texas single-family housing permits went from healthy before the pandemic, like in 2019. Of course, during the pandemic, like proper, right there in the middle of 2020, it collapsed. And then for many years, it absolutely was through the roof. Those single-family housing permits, that's future construction, that fell off the map as the Fed was raising rates, as mortgage rates climbed rapidly. But then by the beginning of 2023, builders and sellers were figuring out ways to close the deal. And a lot of people, they said, hey, I don't have to get in a bidding war anymore. A lot of new home sales, construction companies were figuring out, hey, we can buy down the rate. We can keep our home price the same and buy 4 points off the mortgage, and we can close this house and still make the money. So home sales rebounded, and they started. And if you look at the level on that red line, it's kind of near where it was in 2019. So pretty healthy overall. Now, the homes are expensive, but overall, home sales are looking in pretty good shape. And mortgage rates are now at 7.5%. They're potentially going to climb to 8%, according to some, if the direction things are going. We'll see how that goes, but it doesn't seem to be putting the downward pressure on sales that you might have thought. People still really want to buy houses. So when you look at what this is doing to home prices and home values, when you look at inflation, those inflation numbers, those big indexes that we talk about a third of that index is what we call shelter costs. It's the cost of rent and housing. That's a big chunk of it because it's a big chunk of what we spend our money on every month. And the left-hand chart has two purposes. Its original purpose was for me to figure out if I had a leg to stand on when I argued with the county about why they were overvaluing my house. And it turns out I didn't. This is why I lost. That left hand, this is every single mortgage that was filed in that area. It tracks home prices over time. So you're tracking the same houses over time. You're not just swapping out who happens to be buying and selling right now. And when you look at this says home prices, you can see the surge, and you can see that home prices are coming down, but home price appreciation is still elevated. When you look at that dotted line, though, that dotted line is the Houston median home price, meaning you line up all the houses that sold in a given month from the cheapest to the most expensive and take the one right in the middle. What is that price? And over time, when you look at the most recent data, it says that home prices have started to turn a bit. They have started to drop a little bit, but when you look at this is growth rates, they're dropping from a very high level. They're not collapsing by any stretch of the imagination, certainly not with sales as resilient as they have been. When you look at apartment rental rates on the right-hand side of this chart, apartment rental rates, they leveled off and declined in most Texas markets. In certain other markets, like San Francisco, New York, they absolutely declined. And once evictions were allowed again after as the pandemic recovery progressed, you began to see rates rise as contracts turned over. And we had this huge surge. We had housing shortage. Rental rates got really, really high. They kept raising rates. The occupancy didn't go down. Now the occupancy rate is falling. There are move-outs of apartments, not just Class A, people buying homes again, not just people maybe moving into a cheaper apartment. They're moving out of Class A, Class B, there's a lower occupancy rate. Some of them are doubling up. Some of them are moving home. Some of it is also that we're delivering right now a large volume of new apartments. And that is expected to continue to put downward pressure on rental rates for apartments through the end of the year and keep prices a little bit suppressed, at least for 2024. We'll see how that pans out. But certainly this housing costs are slowing down. And that's a big chunk of that inflation outlook. Vacancy rates in commercial real estate. And I'm realizing that hang on a second. I'm realizing this chart didn't update. Okay. Let me see if I accidentally kept both. Nope. Okay. Right back. So on the left-hand side, I have industrial vacancy rates. And if this had updated properly, what you would see here in the first 2 quarters of 2023 is an actual uptick in vacancy rates in industrial space. Paul, I will send you an updated PDF later today so we can share that proper. And when you see that uptick, what is happening is we're building lots and lots of space, and we're delivering it, and it's pushing up vacancy rates right now. That's what's happening. Now, most of that is going to get filled, but with goods sales going as strong as they are, we expect that that's going to get filled with stuff coming into the Port of Houston. Okay. Well, when you look at office vacancy rates, I could show you the update, but it wouldn't make you feel any better if you owned an office building. So office vacancy rates remain extremely high, especially in Austin, where they're delivering tons of space still. And the vacancy rate stays high. The people who are clocking in with their cards coming into buildings every week, they're still only coming in basically on Tuesday and Thursday, and a little bit on Wednesday. Mondays and Fridays are dead. They're probably not coming back on Monday and Friday ever. But there's a lot of vacancy in these building spaces. It's going to take a long time to fill that space, particularly the older buildings that are going to be more expensive to remodel. That was exciting. Here we go. So I gave you a bit of real estate. I gave you a bit of macro. How are we doing in job growth here in Houston? This is just kind of give you a picture of where we are relative to the rest of the country, how we've been growing since the pandemic. That dotted line there, that is where Houston job growth would have been had it stayed on its trend growth rate. If we hadn't had a pandemic and we just kind of grown at our average rate, where would we be? You can see Texas overall, so the blue line is Houston. The orange line is the rest of Texas, so Texas outside of Houston. And the black line is the rest of the country outside of Texas. You can see Texas, we did not have as big of a decline as the rest of the country. We bounced back relatively quickly, and then Houston diverged from the rest of the state. What happened? The oil bust, the pandemic oil bust caught up to us, and it depressed our growth rate. That corrected itself over the course of 2021, 2022, but now things are kind of leveling off again for the metro. When you look at the rest of Texas, why does it continue to grow so quickly? And the Texas dotted line looks about the same as this one. Why did it continue to grow so aggressively relative to us? It's just really, really strong job numbers, job growth in migration along that I-35 corridor from Corpus Christi all the way to DFW. Just a lot of, let me put it this way. You don't have to clean bugs off your windshield if you drive from Dallas to Corpus Christi anymore. Period. There's so much development, there's just nothing alive next to the highways anymore. It's like driving down I-10 from Houston to El Paso. I used to do that growing up. No have to clean off the windshield anymore, which is disturbing in some ways. But when you look at and then of course the rest of the U.S. has just been steadily growing at a steady pace. Outside of Texas, you'll notice the U.S. is just barely past its pre-pandemic level of total employment, whereas Texas is doing much better overall. Houston is not back to where we would have been had we kept on trend yet, even with the phenomenal growth that we're seeing. And that growth in the most recent data is slowing down. Now, I'm showing you this data right now, and I'm showing you big declines in leisure and hospitality, and that's some of that right now might be restaurants and bars, but in the data, it's called accommodation. So it's accommodation. We don't know if this is the heat. We don't know if this is a bad data read. This is going to get revised here in just a few weeks, so it may not survive. But we are seeing some slowing, even though our core jobs, oil and gas, manufacturing, and some of those output, those jobs that tend to sort of spur other job growth, that all looks really, really strong. Medical center looks good. But leisure and hospitality, construction is down for obvious reasons. Construction activity is lower. And then other services. Other services tend to be things like hair salons, auto shops. I mean, it's a miscellaneous other services things. Pet hotels, pet grooming, things that people maybe spend a little bit less money on as the budget gets tight. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But job growth does seem to be slowing. But of course, slowing from really fast to just nice and fast still leaves you feeling pretty good. Now, we're a global city. And so we got to talk a bit about global. What you're looking at in this chart are two things. Global manufacturing PMI. I like PMIs. You should memorize that acronym. PMI, Purchasing Managers Indexes. In many parts of the country, particularly Houston, the Houston Purchasing Managers Index, which you'll see later, is one of the most timely and accurate bits of economic barometers you will find, and they have a report every month that you can read for free. I highly recommend you do it. Many countries in the world that you might be interested in, oftentimes, let's just say they don't have the most trustworthy official economic data. But their surveys that come out from the PMIs are often very, very, very good and very indicative. And when you look at global manufacturing, it's been in contraction for months globally. And as that happens, typically, goods production, that means new orders are slowing, output is slowing, and from these manufacturing services, from these manufacturers, that generally means that there's going to be less global trade, and you're seeing it in the data. Global trade is falling, is slowing down. Now, it's not slowing down enough that it's indicative of any type of recession yet. It's not so deep that the manufacturing recession or a manufacturing slowdown is spreading to other sectors of the global economy yet, at least not everywhere, but it's something we got to keep an eye on. Again, recession is no longer the base case, but it's still a risk. But when you look at our exports from Houston are doing great. Particularly, of course, oil and gas. When you look at, I have all of our stuff here. Everything's kind of in here. But you look at our main things. Transportation equipment and equipment has really kind of picked up. Petrochemicals are doing all right. Refined products are doing well. Overall, Texas exports are doing well. The Port of Houston, they can't. Every single report they have, it's a record number of stuff. So our exports are still doing okay. Part of the reason for that is because the stuff we export, we can produce at a lower cost in many ways. So I'm going to talk a bit about that. Or because there's just no market for it here. So a little bit about oil prices. We know that they've ticked up recently. So oil prices have ticked up. On the left-hand side, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at Brent and WTI. You see oil prices in the news, those are the two ones you watch. WTI, that's the Texas price. That's really more important if you're interested in oil and gas business. If you're more worried about what you're paying for gasoline, Brent. That's the one you want to watch. That's the global one. Your gasoline prices converge globally. They just adjust for different shipping costs, okay? Why are oil prices rising? Well, the first reason that they're rising, and I should tell you this because this slide, I don't have it detailed here. The first reason that they're rising is not because of OPEC. The first reason that they're rising is because the global economic outlook keeps improving, particularly in advanced economies, particularly in the United States. The long expected recession isn't materializing, and the commodities markets are acknowledging that. Along with that, you're having OPEC cuts. And when you're looking at this chart right here, what you're seeing is that Saudi Arabia right there in mid-2023, they've got their additional cuts that they put in place, that they've extended through September, and this is helping to support oil prices right now as well. So you've got both a better economic outlook and supply cuts from Saudi Arabia. Now, of course, I haven't said anything about the outlook in China yet. That's kind of not in some of these numbers. We can talk a bit about that later, if there's time. But drilling outside of the United States, still doing well, still growing, and Houston likes that. There's not a rig on the planet, I don't care where it is, that doesn't have a person, a patent, or a piece of equipment that ties back to Houston. So every rig in the world, we like seeing that operate here in Houston. US oil and gas rigs are slowing down. They're laying down. A lot of smaller producers that jumped in when oil prices were high last year can't make the numbers work anymore. And either they're selling through M&A activity or divestitures, or they're just laying down rigs and they're waiting for better prices in the future. Particularly on the natural gas side of the business, natural gas prices have plummeted. We've crushed them. I don't know if you guys remember the vote. We all got together, the whole northern hemisphere last year, and decided to forego winter. And without a winter, natural gas prices collapse. So that's what's going on with drilling activity. But nonetheless, the industry's still hiring. And that's good for Houston. That generally tends to produce other spending in other areas. My sister's an interior decorator, and she likes to joke that she works for the oil and gas business because most of her clients happen to be oil and gas people or chemicals people. So when you look at the industry, they're still hiring. They're still optimistic about growth. They've been understaffed, paying lots of overtime. There's less overtime now with some of these laydowns. But overall, the industry is still pretty optimistic. This is true in surveys. This is true in all kinds of, every data source that we have says that even with all these laydowns in rigs, even with the slowdown in activity, the labor pool actually looks pretty resilient and the outlook looks pretty good. So with that being said, I think I'm probably running long on time here at this point, but outlook. So firms revising expected wages and price hikes down for 2023. So we asked, what do you think your increase in wages is going to be this year? what do you think your increase in your prices is going to be this year? We asked this repeatedly in our surveys. 2019, this is December 2019, December 2020, December 2021, December 2022. Now, in December 2022, when we asked about 2023, businesses said 5.6% for wages. So they were already expecting a slowdown. And when we asked them again in June, they said 5.3%, starting to come down. Again, we're starting to see some cracks that the labor market, at the very least, is softening a little bit. When you look at input prices, what do you expect your own costs to do? That's slowing down precipitously. When you look at selling prices, again, also slowing down precipitously. So you're seeing declines here in the expected inflation that businesses are facing. When we ask them, what is your number one concern for your outlook? The number one concern is we're worried about demand. And they're in the situation where we're worried we might have a recession, we're worried about demand. My business looks good, and things seem to be okay, but I'm concerned because I keep hearing that there's a risk of recession, there's all these different things coming at us, and I gotta tell you, even as an economist, it's hard to interpret, exactly where this weird place that we are in. When we look at the future job growth in Houston, I have here the Houston Purchasing Managers Index in light green. I have the Houston Leading Economic Index. This is generally designed to forecast changes in the job growth, the rapidity of job growth. And then the blue line there is job growth. What these are telling us is that, number one, the slowdown has occurred, and we're probably going to get a little bit more slowing just as we kind of move in towards trend. And what that leading index is saying that actually we're probably not going to see a lot more slowing than that. It's probably going to stabilize near trend growth rate. That's what the implication of this chart is. If you have some questions about this, feel free to ask me after. But let me give you the big forecasts, the big numbers. IMF on the left in July, 3% GDP growth globally this year. At the beginning of the year, that forecast was 2.6. They've been increasing their outlook, and that's largely because of what's happened in advanced economies. Outlook for next year has been pretty constant at about 3% GDP growth next year. So the global economy is expected to continue growing. When we look at just the United States, big change. The blue chip, when you look in here, now I have two columns on here. The right-hand side is what the Fed told the world we were thinking in June, and I just want to tell you what the blue chip forecast was thinking in August. Why the blue chip? Why the blue chip? Averages of lots of different forecasts are almost always going to give you a better prediction of the future than any individual forecast. This has been true for decades, but we as forecasters are obligated only to remind you of the one time that we were the ones who got it right and everybody else was wrong. But generally speaking, average lots of forecasts together, and that's what the blue chip does. And the blue chip says now 1.6% GDP growth fourth quarter to fourth quarter in 2023. At the beginning of the year, it was 0. The outlook has changed dramatically. 2024, 1% real GDP growth, fourth quarter to fourth quarter, exit to exit. Unemployment rate is projected to rise to levels that at literally any other point in history we would have called really healthy. When you look at PCE inflation, this is the big one for y'all, 3% PCE inflation, exit to exit this year. Exit to exit, 2.2%. That's down from where it was. It was 2.5% a few months ago. Next year. What does that mean for you? I don't know if this forecast is right, but what it does tell you, is that the average of the best minds who are trying to predict this stuff think that inflation is not going to get down to the Fed's target rate of 2 to 2.5% until the middle to late next year. That's what that tells you. Inflation is slowing, but it's not screeching to a halt. 6 months ago, it wasn't supposed to get there till 2025. Texas job growth slowing to 2.5%. Already told you that. And now here's the tell you what I already told you slide. So this is all the stuff we've already talked about. Overall, I would say a very positive outlook for Houston, a very positive outlook for the state of Texas. It looks like now, the soft landing seems to be the likely case. that we're not out of the woods on, there's still some warning signs out there that we could see more economic slowing, more economic issues in the outlook. So, the bear case is that there might be a mild recession. But I'll tell you, in my own modeling for Houston, even if the US faced a recession, with the momentum that we have, with energy prices where they are, with the dynamism that we've seen in Houston, even in that case, probably would not see a recession. We would just see slower growth. So we're in good shape here in Houston. So with that, if there's time, no time. All right. Well, thank you very much. Y'all take care.
I'll say good morning one more time. How's everyone doing? Who wants to talk to a sales guy now? Let's see where I aim this at. Perfect. All right, so my name's Bill Chenyon, and I have the privilege of leading the Strategic Enterprise Sales Group for the Texas region at Comcast Business. I've lived now in Texas with my family for 2 months, and I've learned 3 very important things. 1, there is no shortage of incredible restaurants, and I'm probably gonna gain a lot of weight this year, so if I'm welcome back next year, you might not recognize me. 2, you wouldn't believe how refreshing a 90-degree pool can actually feel. And 3, as Jesse intelligently put out a lot better than I can, the economy's doing very well here relative to our other regions. Business is growing. We are doing good things. So as companies continue to grow, so does technology. Companies are looking for more ways to satisfy increased needs and demands of their customers, and they're depending on a true technological partner to assist them in these, versus the traditional sales model of a vendor pushing a single product. Today I'll share with you how Comcast Business leverages an international ecosystem to align our clients with our business partners to help them reach their corporate goals. It's what helped us grow to a $9.7 billion run rate business today, and we're continuing to grow as well, just like Texas. So we're adding a new internet customer every 16 seconds. A fun way for me to put that in perspective for everyone is in the United States of America, a new baby is born every 8 seconds. So each 2 new babies born in the United States, Comcast Business is turning up a new internet customer. We've got the largest IP backbone in the country, and we invest in ourselves $1.5 billion annually. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Every time I see this slide, I think of a sales training seminar I went to in Los Angeles earlier this year, where the lead speaker ran an activity early on challenging all of us. What is your differentiator? What can you do that all of your competitors can't do? What can they not say? And the activity he was doing is pretty clear where he was leading with it. So he goes up on a dry erase board and writes, "Best customer service." And you laugh. Yeah, no one has ever bragged about having the 4th best customer service. Everyone claims that. Everyone has the same slide in their sales deck. He says, "Most reliable network." Okay, I see where he's going, right? Who hasn't seen a mobile phone commercial where every single time they say the most reliable network and the map kind of covers the entire thing, just in different colors? But then he says, "You could take advantage of our ecosystem." I was like, wait, who else says that? No one else can say that. They can say that, but they can't do that. So it rubbed me the wrong way, and of course he takes the red pen, he goes up on the dry erase board, X's all over it, says none of these things are things that you can say, your competitors can say the exact same stuff. I completely disagreed. I found him at the intermission, and I explained to him my point of view, but he did not retract his statement later on in the training. So I'll do a better job of explaining it in a way that our competitors cannot. So if you take a look at our ecosystem as a whole, you can see we're much larger than just Comcast, Xfinity, home, TV, and internet. We've made a lot of very strategic acquisitions and investments to really position ourselves as a forward-thinking international technology company. To stay at the cutting edge of technology for our CTOs, we've acquired Masergy, a Texas company out of Plano, which was an industry leader in international SD-WAN, as well as advanced voice offerings. We have Blue Vector. Blue Vector uses AI and advanced machine learning to help provide cybersecurity to enterprise organizations, as well as to government agencies. And then we get to Deep Blue here. And don't worry, I'm not going to go through every one of these logos. But Deep Blue specializes in creating, managing advanced Wi-Fi networks that can deliver very specific analytics which can help drive your businesses, especially in the retail space. So now we're having conversations more along the lines of, instead of what kind of internet connectivity do you need, what kind of bandwidth, we're talking about what's the vision for your store of the future. Contactless payment. Do you want to track where your customers are spending the most time in your location and where they're spending the least amount of time? How many of them were at a gas pump and decided to come in versus how many of them sat in their car, charged their Tesla, and then took off and you never saw them again? These are the type of things that we can help capture. We're good. So as we move across this slide, the conversations with my team are also moving across the C-suites. We're no longer just talking to the chief technology officers. We're no longer just talking to chief security officers. You'll see here the brand name Fandango. We acquired Fandango, and this has enabled us to have the ability to provide customer loyalty as well as employee recognition programs for our partners. So the next time that you do a great job at work and your boss sends you an email with some free Fandango tickets, or you have an app for ordering food or some sort of shopping on the weekend and you win a Fandango movie ticket, you'll have a good idea where it came from and you'll remember me saying this here today. Also, we have Effective. So if you're not familiar with Effective, this is the Comcast business arm for marketing. We market ourselves. We eat our own dog food. I mean, we obviously are experts at running a network, but we also have a lot of stores, retail stores, that you can go into and shop for the Xfinity experience. We're able to offer just a consultation of letting them pick our experts' brains of what works for us, what hasn't worked for us, but also provide a vast variety of services that I won't be able to get in today. One of the ones that I think is most interesting is in some areas, you could go home, watch TV, hit a commercial you don't like, pick up your X1 remote and say, I need to find a body shop near me. And we can have custom content for one of our customers show up in somebody's house on that TV with QR codes of how to get there, and they never even have to leave their couch. Very specific targeted audience based on geography. So people aren't wasting marketing dollars catching eyeballs that are outside of their service area. Oh, here's another fun one. So you'll see on the bottom it says Comcast Ventures. This is the VC arm of Comcast Business. So we invest in a lot of very innovative tech companies around the world that are doing some exciting things. I'll mention one called Juganu, which has gotten a lot of hype lately, if I dare say that. So Juganu has created advanced lighting systems that can actually kill the coronavirus. So now our conversations are, what can we put above shopping carts to have a disinfecting station? What else can we put around an office building so that they can have a safer place for their employees to work and their customers to feel safe? See, I'm running out of time, so I'm going to cut to some of the good stuff here. MachineQ. This is our IoT arm of Comcast Business. MachineQ enabled us to sit down with the executives at Starbucks and ask them, what is your corporate vision for this year? What are your goals? Their goals are to have their baristas be able to spend more time having quality interactions with their customers and being able to make those custom delicious refreshments. I don't know if anyone here has worked at a Starbucks, but I bet dollars to donuts, we've all been in one. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. So one of the things that they were able to figure out is there's a task every day that is necessary, 100% necessary, to check the temperature in refrigerators and freezers. So as they were able to go through and quantify this, they identified it as 20 minutes a day spent checking temperatures in refrigerators and freezers. 20 minutes might not sound like a lot. Multiply that by 9,500 different locations. That's how many minutes of customer engagement we were able to give back to Starbucks to improve their customer experience and increase their operational efficiency. So based on time, I'm going to hop over to this one because this is one that's very special to me, and I'm happy to announce something that my team is leading. We are, as of last week, launching our pediatric hospital screening program in the greater Texas area. So this is a program where we leverage Comcast Universal to come in, build pop-up movie theaters. At times I've seen red carpets, etc., for children who are unfortunately too ill to be able to sleep in their own homes, as well as their families, to be able to watch movies that are still sometimes in the theaters. We'll have minions come in looking like, you know, the full mascot. We'll have the Grinch hand out cookies at different times. And it's just a way for us to try to give back on common community goals that we have with our different partners. Because if we can just bring a little bit of joy or a little bit of distraction to those people that need it most, I mean, that's the greatest thing for me, and probably my favorite thing of our partnership community. But I guess I'll leave you with saying this. As we continue to see technology evolve, and we continue to just invest and make sure that if we don't have it ourselves, we're in a position to acquire the best in the business at it, so our partners can know that they can come to us as a trusted advisor, while leveraging our entire ecosystem to help align with the goals outside of even the IT department. We're anticipating a lot more growth and a lot more excitement in the enterprise space, and it's great to be here in Texas. Thank you very much for your time today.
Bring this down to my level here. Good morning, everybody. Let's see. Oh, yay. All right, my name is Nikki Pfizer. I am with Comerica Bank. I'm a small business banker. Have been in banking for about 26 years, so have a little knowledge, and just want to thank ACC and, of course, all of our business owners here for allowing us to share. I'm going to let Hope introduce herself really quickly, and then we'll get started.
Thank you, Nikki. So my name is Hope Cruz. I have been in banking for a little over 7 years now. Previously was with a different financial institution, but wanted a little bit more of a challenge, so I'm with Comerica and with my awesome mentor, Miss Nikki. Give it back to her.
All right, so we want to just share some information this morning about credit and how to obtain credit. Obviously, as a business owner, depending on what stage of growth that you're in or what phase of your business, more than likely you will need to utilize credit and to leverage your great credit. So we want to talk about that for just a moment, and what is credit worthiness. And so one of the things that I find a lot of times is that our business owners are very intelligent and smart about what they do for a living, and sometimes are not as mindful about what their financial position may look like. And so when we begin to talk about, you know, perhaps a line of credit or a term loan or purchasing a building and things of that nature, you may not be aware of where you are. And so I think really just the awareness of where you are in the credit conversation is very important. And so want to talk about paying your bills on time. That's one of the things that's most important, I would say, when we talk talk about credit reports, I'm sure everybody here has a knowledge of credit reports and things of that nature, but making sure that you are aware of what those credit reports are saying about you. Sometimes you may have an idea of what you think it says, but it's so very important for you to actually review these things, at least I would say on a monthly basis, especially in 2023, in the age of technology. So much is happening with fraud and things of that nature. You want to make sure that you're constantly aware. Your budget, are you staying within your budget? Making sure that you're not overextending yourself with debt is very important. Income steadiness, and enough to repay the loan. Those are things we want to make sure that you're focusing on. Is your business already running and making money? In many cases, in traditional lending with banks, of course, we like to see some history. When you say, hey, I need to borrow a certain amount of money, we want to make sure that you have already some historical data to see, for us to see, well, how is your business growing? How is your business operating? How is it doing currently? And of course, there are some tools that we have to provide for those that are startup businesses, but in many cases, when you're talking about those larger deals, those larger loans, we definitely want to see some historical data. So one of the things I definitely say is, know me before you need me, so we can start having these types of conversations, and also making sure that you partner with your CPAs and have the conversations with them about what your goals are. If you're looking to purchase this year, or you're looking to obtain some credit, you definitely want to talk with them, because they're going to be the ones who are creating the data around your financial reporting, and they're going to provide that data to us. And so you want to make sure it looks like what it needs to in order for you to obtain that credit. Stability in work and business. In many cases, if you're a business owner, you'll be the one that's guaranteeing the loan. And so, of course, your personal credit is important, as well as your personal income. In many cases, business owners are still working regular W-2 jobs. So if that is you and applicable to you, then you want to be mindful of that. Just want to talk real quick about 5 C's of credit. Capacity, these are the things that we look at when we're talking about extending a line of credit or extending any type of loan. Can you repay the loan now or in the future, right? Cash flow, what is the cash flow looking like? Dependent upon how much it is that you are asking for. Capital, if you're looking to purchase a building, do you have any funds to invest, right? Do you have any skin in the game? In many cases, you say, for instance, you're looking for a building, you may need 20% down, 10% down. Do you have that capital available to you? Collateral, personal or business assets you can use to repay the bank in case of default, right? Character, so in many cases, this is what we find on the credit report. Your history of following through in life and in business. If you have already used any credit facilities, have you repaid on those timely and as agreed upon with the terms of, the lender? And then, of course, conditions. He talked about a lot about conditions here just a few moments ago. Do external factors favor the success of your business? In some cases, people during the pandemic, their business boomed, right? And in some cases, it affected your business negatively. And so those are things that we tend to look at as well.
I'll let you take control of the clicker.
Okay.
So just to kind of tag on to what my partner, Ms. Nikki, was saying. So a few other considerations that banks look at whenever you or any business owner does request any type of lending, whether it be for commercial, equity, any empty plot. Sorry, I'm a little tongue-tied right now. Any empty piece of land to where you're looking to build up a business, so kind of like an SBA build-up acquisition. So they do typically look at, of course, your background. How long have you been in the field? How long have you been in a management company? What does your day-to-day look like? How are you interacting with the business? Are you a little bit more hands-off? So, of course, once you do come into requesting any amount of loan, typically what we will sometimes look for is, can you provide us your last 2 to 3 years of maybe your business financials, tax returns, personal as well, because we do want to look at your income, anything outgoing, any debt that you already have existing, whether it's on the personal, on the business side as well, on how you guys are making those payments, and also just to kind of tag on to what Ms. Nikki stated earlier, how if you are going to be able to repay the loan, once we do go through the approval process. And then, of course, so business and personal credit scores, how they're similar, how do they differ? So, of course, a little bit of how they're similar. So, of course, both business and personal credit scores are used from the lenders to kind of decide whether you qualify for the loan as a business owner or if you have other partners as well. What is the likelihood of you being able to repay that loan? And then also your history of making sound financial decisions. Is it the right time to move into purchasing another business? Is it the right time to expand, or maybe you wanted to, instead of retire from your business, stay in a little bit longer? How they differ, of course, how the credit agencies do track them. And then, of course, the score ranges, because so for personal credit scores, of course, as we all know, range anywhere from 300 to upwards of 850. Businesses, they could differ as well, anything between 0 to 100. And then, of course, a little bit of few different tips on how you can improve personal credit score: pay bills on time, low balances on credit cards. Always remember to kind of stay below that 30% threshold, and of course, stay at the same job, address for a long time. You don't really want to be jumping around different jobs every 6 months to a year, because we do want to look and see, if we do lend to you, what is the likelihood of you being able to repay the loan for either personal or business as well. Let's see, next. And then, of course, a few top reasons as far as why scores do go down. So, of course, once we're submitting applications, we do get back whether we're approved or denied, as far as what could play a factor in the decision making. So any late payments, collections, bankruptcies, of course, any high debt compared to your income. You always want to make sure that you're not overutilizing what you have available to you or what you're trying to acquire, of course. Charge-off and severe delinquencies, of course, and then also using most of the available credit to you. So some clients that we've come in face-to-face with lending, some of them do happen to be a little above what they have available to them to use. How you can improve your credit score: just always be sure, pay bills on time, try to keep low balances, of course, staying below that 30% threshold, and then, of course, try to not take on too much debt. And of course, same thing, a big one that I will say, just reading and understanding your credit report. You don't have to do it daily, but always want to make sure that there's nothing fraudulent on there as well, kind of like Ms. Nikki said. We're always on the go. We don't really check our emails as much, but it's good to make a habit out of it, to make sure that we're reporting anything inaccurate or anything that could affect us in any future potential lending for business.
So what's in a business credit report, right? So business organization information, so information about the nature of your business, what it is that you do, any SEC filings, credit history, additional business ownerships that you may have, your commercial credit score, and of course, potential risk for failure. And then where do you locate business and personal credit scores? So this is important. I want you guys to perhaps take a picture of this screen so that you can utilize this. So you can check on your business and personal credit. We have myfico.com for personal credit scores. Of course, it ranges anywhere from 300 to 850. Obviously, you want to be as close to 850 as possible. That, of course, that's stellar credit. Business credit scores range from 0 to 100. You can access a free report on Dun & Bradstreet, Equifax, and also Experian. And another business credit score is the FICO Small Business Scoring, SBBS, which pulls from your personal and business credit and ranges from 0 to 300. And then just to wrap up here, just things, again, to be mindful of, we can't say it enough, is just making sure that you are timely. There are a lot of tools now that banks offer so that you don't have to worry about being late with your credit payments. Automatic payments, if you can put those things in place, because obviously you are very hard at work trying to grow your organization and you don't want to miss anything. And I know some people have the availability of administration that helps with managing these things. But if you are not at that point and you're managing your finances yourself at this moment, then you definitely want to utilize the tools to help with alerts and also automatic payments so that you don't have to remember all of the small things. And of course, having used a business credit card definitely want to suggest that you, obviously your accountant, your CPA will encourage you to do this, to separate your payments so that they can easily identify what you have used, because it's to your tax benefit, obviously, as well, that went toward the business and those things that went toward you personally. And of course, as much as is possible, keep your credit balances low and ensure that your financial statements for the past 3 years record healthy financial behavior, because of course anything in the past 2 to 3 years resonate with what's going on currently in your life. So definitely want to make sure that you maintain good credit so that you can leverage it anytime you want to be able to utilize it. Your business is going to be growing. You may need to get new employees, purchase equipment. There's always opportunities, technology, AI, different things. And in order to do that, sometimes you don't want to have to utilize the cash that you have on hand. So thank you so much for allowing us to come and share. And we definitely appreciate you. If you have any questions, we'll be hanging out here for the next few hours. Thank you.
And what it takes to be in front of buyers to sell your product and service. So we're here we have Donovan from Shell, Vic from CenterPoint Energy, Braden from JPMorgan Chase, and Eduardo from Port Houston. So please give a warm welcome and hand an applause as they go ahead and start the conversation.
Testing, 1, 2, testing. Hello, everyone. Thanks, Asian Chamber. Thanks, Paul and team, for this opportunity to be able to engage. So, hey, something's pretty neat happening here, and I want you to take advantage of it. You got some individuals that I'm very fortunate to say I know each one of these individuals. I've been knowing some of them for years and for ages. I want to make sure I address you as well. I've got some things right in front of me, but you're included, believe me. So I want you to take advantage of this time. I want you to really listen to the nuggets that they are going to be able to supply with each one of you guys. This is all about entrepreneurship. We are fortunate to say we operate in a space where we support major entities, local, globally, huge companies. So these people know what they're talking about. So be sure that you are taking nuggets, some of the nuggets that you might hear, applied to things that's happening every day in your organization. Unfortunately, we've been cut for time, so I don't know if we'll have a chance to do some Q&A, but we'll probably be around in the back a little bit after. So please feel free to come up to us and engage with us, because it's all about building a relationship. So thank you. So we'll go ahead and get started right now. This is a fireside chat. So this is more of a, we want this to be very conversational. So I'll start right now. I'll go ahead and start with you, Vic, since you're right next to me. When you think about doing business with large major entities, a lot of time we think about size, we think about scalability. We also think about the ability for a smaller business, a dynamic entrepreneur to be nimble, to be able to provide unique value propositions to our business. So what, Vic, do you and CenterPoint look for in a good supplier?
Good question. So, and good afternoon. It's almost, I'll say good morning, right? So I'm Vic Cleveland. I lead supplier diversity and sustainability strategy at CenterPoint. Been in this capacity for approaching 3 years now. Don and I go way back to our years as I was a buyer at Shell in Louisiana. And he's primarily the reason I got an interest in the space of advocacy for small, diverse, minority businesses. And so let me say publicly, for the first time publicly in this type of setting, man, thank you for inspiring me to be in this space. It's an opportunity of a lifetime. So I think when we're looking for a small business or a business opportunity to compete with us, One, I'm looking to understand your value proposition, right? Something I've heard him say a number of times. And that really looks at why you, right? So typically, it's somebody's already performing that scope of work for us to some degree of competence, quality, commercial value, et cetera. And what we're trying to understand is why, all things being equal, why you and not that other entity. And so it's very important to be clear about your value proposition. Here's what you bring to the fight. Here's your new widget. Here's your competitive advantage. Here's your cost competitiveness that makes this, or your ability to, your process sustainability here that helps us to do this thing better, sharper, wiser, that sort of thing. So we're looking to understand, quite simply, your value proposition.
Awesome, thank you. I'm gonna ask the same question to you, Eduardo. Tell me about the Port of Houston.
Sure. Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Eduardo Mejia. I am with the Port of Houston. I'm a business compliance analyst there at the port. And so to answer Donovan's question, I guess some of the things that we do look for as in suppliers is, the first thing that we do look at, and since sometimes when you are trying to get in front of these people, you sort of have a short amount of time, is we're looking at capability statements. We want to see, hey, what is it that you are providing? All right, we want to see a clean, concise capability statement, something that we see, like I say, that we can see it right up front and see who you are, what you do, and things of that nature. So it's kind of piggybacking off of what Vic said as well. Things of that nature, but a lot of that we do look as well is at that capability statement.
Awesome. I'm gonna ask the same question to you, Brandon, representing JPMorgan Chase.
All right, well, hello everyone. My name is Brandon Morris, Senior Business Consultant at JPMorgan Chase. And what Ed and Vic have said already is very accurate. I'm just gonna, obviously I come from the bank, so I'm gonna talk about being well capitalized to perform on any projects or contracts that you get. Being able to show the ability to last, with that contract, to partner with financial institutions, to have the right insurances and bonding capability is very, very important. You do not want to start a contract and not have the money to finish it. That's going to reflect bad on you. And let's just be real, you may only get a couple of chances in life for those big contracts.
Awesome, thank you guys. So, hey guys, I was talking outside with Mike from Apple, and I was talking to a few other people, and we were talking about the avenue of supplier diversity. So how many people are out in the audience? Just give me a show of hands. How many of you are familiar with the term supplier diversity? Okay, awesome. So, when you think about these large, cumbersome organizations and what it takes to navigate these organizations, especially one person, one entity, try to get to the right person, the right buyer, it would take you days, weeks, years, and sometimes even longer than that, right? So I want to ask the panelists, you guys are very familiar with the supplier diversity space. Some of you guys manage the supplier diversity space. Elaborate to the audience, why would individuals want to work with supplier diversity managers to get into each one of the spaces? I'll start again with you, Vic.
Yeah, so good question. So it's only about maybe slightly more than half the room familiar with supply diversity. And some of the answers is in your question, right? For the ability to help navigate that. It's a big organization. And so I'm fortunate that I get to do this, and I consider myself fortunate I get to do this for a living, right? Being in a category that classified as a minority, being a military veteran, having grown up in a small rural town in Mississippi. And so CenterPoint pays me to connect with small minority women, veteran-owned businesses, right? And so that's what I do. So I report to our chief procurement officer, right? And so we sit with the team of procurement, the buyers, and it's my job to be an internal advocate for business owners, entrepreneurs like yourself. So if we're buying goods and services, if we're buying widgets, and I'm privy of that category of contracting strategy, that RFP, and I hold them to account. Hey, have we considered, who's in the list? Who's on the pool, right? I was at the ACC conference on a Friday. I met a very aspiring young entrepreneur whose strong capability, organization is well led. I think they can contribute. There is, and let's have a conversation, see if we can get them included in this pool. So to show the level of diversity with a business intent, because it's not because it's the right thing to do, but it's good business for us. And I'll perhaps save that for another question. But I think leveraging the internal advocacy of a supply diversity team or advocate can certainly help you navigate those hurdles, if you will.
I'm gonna ask you the same thing, Eduardo.
All right, thanks. So so at the Port of Houston, it is important to work with a supplier diversity manager, and because, as Vic had said, CenterPoint, the large company, Port of Houston is a large institution as well. So I mean, we do have various terminals throughout the channel. And so whenever it is that you are wanting to work with the Port of Houston, it's kind of intimidating. You don't know what it is or who to go talk to initially. And so our office there at the Port of Houston, our office is called the Business Equity Department. And so what we do is we do help the small minority women-owned businesses, help them get their foot in the door. So what our department would do, with our supplier managers, the supplier manager in our group would do is, like I said, we do help navigate you through the channels that are working at the Port of Houston, introducing you to those specific buyers that you do want to meet, those specific managers that you want to be introduced to. And outside of that, we do help the small businesses, minority business, women-owned businesses as well grow. All right, we do have a program there called Opportunity U. All right, so it's a 10-week course where we do help and train small businesses on not only how to navigate the port, but also just business in general. All right, so that is a program. It's a very intensive program. Again, like I say, that we walk you through all sorts, the whole port, but also different organizations as well. Excuse me. So, like I said, it is important there to work with the supplier diversity manager because he or she can help you, guide you through an intimidating organization. As the port or any other organization, sometimes it can seem like it's a huge feat, but in the grand schemes of things, it's really not. So,
thank you so much, Brandon. I'm gonna ask you the same question, and I'm looking at you because we've had this conversation before about the uniqueness of supplier diversity, so I'll allow you to elaborate a little bit.
Definitely. I feel that I've been fortunate enough to work on both sides. Being a former business owner and having the opportunity to utilize supplier diversity channels to try to get contracts with my business, and now being on the corporate side, talking to individuals and helping people navigate those waters, I think it's important to set realistic expectations when you're engaging your supplier diversity manager. As Vic said, they're an advocate for you. So yes, they want to see you do business with our organizations. As Ed said, they get your foot in the door, right? So they're putting you in alignment with the buyers and the procurement specialists who will, be purchasing your product or service. However, these are some large corporations, and they're very specific. JPMorgan Chase is one of the largest banks on the planet. It's $2.6 trillion in assets managed and owned. Just because you have this product or service that you feel that is so unique that Chase has to get it, you have to be realistic about your chances. Donovan and I go way back, so I didn't know that, Vic, you had the history with Donovan. Donovan and I, he was a basketball star in my hometown. This dude was dunking on our high school guys. And, our families were in the same church community, and our sisters, were in the same organizations. And so I come to Houston, and Donovan's supplier diversity manager for Shell. So I'm like, oh yeah, I got the end, right? Like this, I'm about to get this contract. And don't get me wrong, Donovan showed me a lot of love. He put me in front of different people, different opportunities. But at the end of the day, my particular service was not what Shell was looking for. So I had to set a realistic expectation. I wasn't mad at Donovan. I didn't call and cuss him out like that. However, I did a better job at researching the opportunities for the organizations that I was looking to do business with. Okay, so it's really about setting those realistic expectations and utilizing your supplier diversity management. Because the product or service that you have may not be the product or service that they're looking for at that particular time.
Thank you so much, Brandon. So you said something about realistic expectations. So Eduardo, I would like to ask you the next question. You have a bunch of smiling faces out here, and everybody wants to do work with the port, I'm sure. So how do they make good impressions with you as a buyer, with your organization? Just give us some tidbits of advice on how do these organizations meet individuals like you guys and make good impressions?
No, for sure. So I guess to answer that, I guess you would say, like, I'd go back to that capability statement. But outside of that, one of the main things that they do look at is past performance. They want to see where you've worked, who you've worked with, what you've done, your track record. A big thing that they do look at, like I say, is the past performance. And they are wanting to see, are you capable of working and providing the product and or services that it is that they're looking for. Some companies that we have worked for in the past, or that have worked with us in the past, and in other organizations that I've been at that I can relate to, is sometimes they bite more than they can chew. All right, so they bite more, and like I said, they take on way more, and they overpromise and underdeliver. So it's better to underpromise and overdeliver in that sense. So like I say, big thing is past performance. That again, that I say that they're looking for.
Thank you so much, Vic. I'm gonna go to you.
Thank you for that, because I was chomping at the bit to comment. So I saw a video of a supplier explaining his success story about yesterday. It's about a 3-minute video. By the way, you guys have something on the shell count, like 30-second video, just phenomenal. Man, I'm digging that. But this guy talked about how hard it is to really break through these large companies, and said he's talking with the representative. He said, man, just give me a problem, right? And if I can solve that problem for you, I expect you to give me more problems to solve, right? And so inside of that really is, I think, we can get so caught up in trying to communicate what my business does, how well I do, the capacity to reach, et cetera, and not take time to ask probing questions to understand, is there a particular unique need that this entity, JPMorgan has, a port has, a CenterPoint has, that you might be able to solve, that type of thing. I think it takes some time, I believe, to really ask some questions to see where there is a fit. Sometimes a no is a good thing to help keep you from spinning your wheels for a while, right? But I think that's part of what that iterative process looks like, in my opinion.
Absolutely, awesome. So, Brandon, I'm gonna switch a little bit. I'm going to ask a burning question that I'm sure the audience wants to know, because this is all about opportunities. You should always be ready to take advantage of opportunities. So, Brandon, what's hot at Chase right now? What are you buying? Where's this hot area that people are investing in? What should we know right now? What's that burning area?
So, like I said before, I'm not having the best of luck with this microphone. Okay. So, like I said before, Chase has a ton of assets under management, and we own a ton of real estate. So, if you're in the construction industry, architecture, anything related to building facilities, because we have so much real estate all over the world, and then we need people to maintain those facilities. So, you have ancillary services like food services and, obviously cleaning services, replacing the lighting, so upgrading things. Then, when you look at some different departments, you have to be understanding that some things Chase is not going to really look at. So like, for instance, IT, okay? Did you know that Chase has a larger IT department than Google? You have to understand, Chase manages a ton of people's money. I mean, that's your money. So of course, they're gonna wanna keep their IT department close to the vest in-house. So they're not gonna be quick to wanna subcontract that work out. So it's really about understanding the dynamics of the organization that you're approaching, and try to make really logical decisions on what's the low-hanging fruit that they could really use. JPMorgan Chase is very committed to supplier diversity. We are one of the members of the $1 Billion Roundtable, which, if you're not sure what that is, that means that annually Chase spends over $1 billion a year with minority-owned, woman-owned, and veteran-owned businesses. So the commitment is there. I would just recommend that once you get into our supplier portal, you look at the opportunities that we have out there for our MBs.
Awesome. I'm sure everybody wants to hear from every panelist on this one. What about you, Eduardo? What are you buying? What are the hot areas with the port?
All right, so obviously the port is a big organization. We obviously buy everything from A to Z, all right? Anything and everything that you can imagine. But one of the big things that we are doing right now, we do have a huge project right now. I don't know if y'all have seen it in the news or whatnot, but it's called Project 11. It's where they're widening the channel. So it's a big dredging project. So that's an ongoing project right now. And I believe it's currently like at a $1.5, $1.4 billion project, like I say. So that right there is going to need all kinds of services, all right? So obviously it's a lot of dredging, but it's not solely dredging, all right? So we do have projects of that. We do have that large project ongoing right now that's still being awarded. And so at the same time too, though, if you do go to the Port of Houston's website, there is a section there where it does list all the procurements that are being currently solicited. So it's not only construction, but it is also services as well as products that we are buying. Outside of that, I know that recently the state of Texas did increase the formal, or the informal, better said, purchasing. So before, it used to be any kind of formal purchasing over $50,000 needed to be approved by our port commission. Now they have raised that to $100,000. So anything under 100, any project or any kind of solicitation or purchase, better said, under $100,000, now we can just do it then and there. All right, we don't have to go through the channels and everything and whatnot. So that is actually going to help increase our spend with small businesses, minority businesses, women businesses, and just in general. So things of that nature.
Thank you so much. Vic, we're gonna ask you the same question.
Yeah, so most of the dollars, particularly here in Texas, most of the dollars we're spending are gonna be in areas of overhead electrical construction, underground gas construction, that type of thing. And if that's not your jam, it's not what you do, certainly not to worry. There's opportunities at the tier 2 level or second tier level, if you will. And this is not to be disparaging, one area we are not in need of, staffing. I mean, very low barrier to entry, so that the market is just flooded with those type of firms. So it's not necessarily an area of need. But certainly at the tier 2 level, we continue to partner with our prime suppliers that are non-diverse to challenge them to spend with diverse firms as well. A number of them are right here in Houston, MRC, MP Technologies, Quanta, Northeastern Pole Line, those to actually have supply diversity programs of their own, and they partner with us and those that certainly may cover some of the spaces that you're in as well.
So guys, we have about 5 more minutes, so I'm gonna go and I'm gonna ask everybody a question. I want you to this is a little bit of advice for the audience. You are all major, huge entities, global organizations. Give us a little bit of advice on, sometimes it's really hard to do business directly with one of these big providers like a Shell, like a CenterPoint and so on, because we're not a mom and pop. So is there any advice that you would suggest to the audience about working with some of the prime contractors, taking advantage of becoming a subcontractor? And it's something that you need to think about. So I'll start with you, Brandon.
Subcontractor is not a bad word. That is your entry point to work with a lot of these organizations up here, okay? And quite frankly, when I had my business, I preferred it in most cases because I can get paid more on time. Now, of course, we all know about net terms, getting paid. And if you're the prime, you're gonna have to wait on your money. But if I'm a sub, you're gonna have to pay me on the 1st and 15th. Like when my work is done, I expect to get paid. That means as the prime, you have to financially be able to cover and last until you get your money. So, and in addition to that, you get an insight on working with that organization because you're still working directly with the organization. So you get to understand that world, meet the people, understand the culture and the processes. So that would be my biggest thing, you know, get comfortable with being a subprime.
Awesome. And what about you, Eduardo?
So,
short and
I
sweet.
couldn't have said it any better. You couldn't have said, but I will agree. Being a subcontractor, sometimes it's actually a whole lot easier than being that prime. You don't have to carry all the insurance that's needed and everything that the port or the client would ask for. You need smaller insurance, but at the same time, too, if you are a growing company, that is how you do grow your business. You learn the ins and outs of the prime contractor you're working with, but at the same time, too, you are learning the ins and outs of how to work with that agency that they're contracted to. So in this case, the port, with my previous role with the airports, you are learning everything and anything that does relate to that business. And at the same time, too, you are growing, all right? So with previous history that I've seen, I have seen subcontractors, their first contract was, hey, they received a $1,000 contract. That $1,000 contract turned into $1 million, which turned into a $3 million, $5 million, et cetera. So it just takes a little bit of elbow grease to put in, some time, but it's well worth it.
Thank you. Good point. Vic.
Yeah, I think I stumbled on this one in my last answer. So it's what they said.
Well, hey, the only other thing I would say is, remember this, guys. It's what we call a supply chain, not a supply link. A chain means that it takes all these different organizations working together. It allows you to grow in the organization. It allows you to learn the company culture. Sometimes working with a prime, and it's happened to me several times where people have been offended when I asked them, would they be interested in meeting a prime? No, I want to do business with this big major company. Well, we're not a mom and pop, guys. So sometimes you have to grow. And, you know, this is a great opportunity to grow. These prime contractors are not small mom and pop primes. These are billion-dollar primes, so they have huge contracts. So just hope that you really adhere to some of the tips and tricks that you've learned. As I mentioned earlier, I don't think we are leaving immediately. I know there's a session right after, but this is I think we're at our time, and we'll be in the back. And thank you very much for this opportunity. Appreciate it.
That whole thing, as Mike Chop is going to be setting up for his presentation, just to give you some announcements. This is part of a 2-day series, actually. Next Friday, we will have our Business Expo and Rising Luncheon. So we'll have flyers in the back for you guys to participate. It's over 50 exhibitors and our sponsors that's going to be there. So definitely you want to pitch your products and service to those who are going to be there. And later they'll be available afterwards to be able to talk to that. I think they want to pitch it. All right, thank you. So I'm privileged to just kind of introduce our last and final speaker. I know we're 15 minutes late, but I promise you that this will be a very engaging conversation. We're very privileged to have Mike Chomp to fly from Silicon Valley, Cupertino, to be able to talk and represent Apple, but even more so, very pressing topics of ChatGPT, AI, and how do you integrate that into your business, how to embrace it, and how it has revolutionized just some of the things that you're doing to simplify things. So I believe, are you ready? Mike, why don't you come on board? Would you please give a warm welcome to Mike Chomp, Conversational Interactive Designer at Apple.
Press the button again. Press the button again. All right, thank you very much, everybody, for having me here. It's a pleasure and an honor to be able to address such an esteemed crowd. Thank you very much, Paul, for inviting me. It's been great having a relationship for you for several years through US PAC. One of the things I want to impart on you guys is it's about relationships. Coming to events like this and being able to connect with people amongst yourselves and with the esteemed speakers that I've had a pleasure to be here with as well is just something very special. And it's something that you guys should kind of hold dear to yourselves, is the ability to connect and to grow your businesses and generate new ideas on how things work. All right, I'm gonna shift a little bit here. Confidence monitor is a little bit different. So, again, my name is Mike Chop. I've been with Apple for over 10 years now. My title at my job is actually a Conversational Interaction Designer. And for those of you who think that have no idea what that gobbledygook means, is I have the pleasure of teaching Siri how to speak. So throw tomatoes at me, or you think it's amazing. It's been an incredible journey of just trying to figure out what people's relationships are with their device. And that's one of the things that we'll actually be talking about. And we'll go into that a little bit more. I'm also the co-chair of our ERG, which is an employee resource group at Apple. That's kind of how I got involved with US PAC and started meeting people in the supplier diversity space. And a last little fact about me is I'm Apple's slowest Ironman. So when I went to Apple, one of the things I got to do is like connect with a bunch of people and try something different. And I was able to join a community of people that actually, encouraged me to get fit and get a little bit better. But going through all that, I ended up being the slowest person on the team. See if I can change slides. Uh-oh. There we go. So I mentioned it before, the thing that really got me invigorated in this community and the work that I've done at Apple is I love working with people and technology that connects people and communicate ideas. And so I think that's something that you can kind of bring together in the work that you do, is thinking about what drives you and what brings you up to the plate and makes you excited about the business that you're doing. And I think that as you start thinking about how those core values get incorporated into your business, I think it's one of these skills that actually will help bring you to the next level. So one of the things I like to do as someone who loves to come and present and talk to people and kind of give advice and think about, hang on here. Think about ideas on what you can bring to the table is, I'm gonna lead with the conclusion of my presentation. So this is a technique that I learned, and I think you might have noticed in the TED Talks that you did a little while ago, is I'm gonna lead with the thing that's my conclusion. And so that's kind of the one thing I wanna leave with you, is as we're talking about AI and ML, artificial intelligence, is I don't want you guys to think lightly about this one. This is a technology that's gonna be a part of your business that you need to incorporate into the way that you work pretty quickly. So this is kind of a wake-up call in case you haven't thought about how this is gonna go into your workflows and how it's gonna be a part of what you do every day. And I'm gonna give you some examples of that. ChatGPT kind of came onto the stage, I think 6 months ago. People started talking about it a lot. People started to explore, really what this is going to mean to them. And I wanted to give you examples of how to think about this. So I want you to think about the first time that you used Google for the first time. You had access to all this information. You could ask questions. You could get information. Or the first time that you used an iPhone. You have this supercomputer in your hand, right? It allows you to be connected all the time. It allows you to connect with your customers, to your family. It's this thing that gives you a portal into information that you might have had before. Think about the first time that you actually hopped into your photos and you typed in, your kid's name and you got a long slideshow of pictures of your kid growing up from infant to when they started to go to college. This is the type of technology that AI/ML is kind of bringing to you that you might not be aware of, but can bridge your personal technology into what you do in business. And so if you can think about engaging in your business, asking questions about competitive analysis, or how you're going to write an RFP. We had a really great talk about supplier diversity in creating your business statements or competitive analysis or RFPs. You're going to start using these tools as a superpower. This is another thing that we'll talk about, to elevate your game. It's going to make you do better. It's going to make your employees more efficient. It's going to be able to extend your reach. And so I think that this is the sort of technologies that we want to make sure that you're aware of and that you have a plan to implement and incorporate into your business. So these are a few examples of buzzwords that you guys have probably heard about. ChatGPT, of course, is one of them. Google has started to announce this with Google Bard. Microsoft has introduced their products as for Edge. There's a bunch of these technologies that are being rolled out that you might not even be aware of right now. If you are running your business in Google or Salesforce, these sorts of tools are already being integrated into your work. And so just be aware that these are things that you can actually start using to improve your workflows. And this is kind of the slide that I've included here when I talk about superpowers. And so one way to think about the tools that we're using right now is being able to do more, to become better, to become more efficient. Let me give you an example of here what I'm talking about. One of the things that I worked on early in my career for Siri was just being able to make a phone call. And actually one of the top things that people do on their phone, turns out, is to say, call mom. People love to be able to press a button and say, hey Siri, call my mom. And this turns out it's like the #1 thing people want to do. So if you can imagine what it's like to kind of extend that, you actually want your assistant to think about your assistant to tell you, I've noticed that you haven't called your mom in a while. Maybe you want to give her a buzz. If we think even more about that and think about this process of staying connected to your family or the people that you love, you actually want your assistant to actually notice, mom hasn't been feeling very well lately. I've noticed that she hasn't been moving around as much as she has. Maybe you want to check in with her. But even if we think further about that and thinking about what AI and ML can do for us, we really want to say your assistant to say something like, we've noticed that mom isn't feeling too well. She's moving around a lot less, and she hasn't communicated with anybody in her family in a couple days. Let me start a call for you so you can check in on her. And so this kind of thinking, I think, is the sort of thing that you can actually apply to your business. It's like whether or not you're reactive or whether or not you have something that's kind of giving you information on what's going on in your business. So an example for that one might be you're asking someone to give you a report on what's going on, for example, and I love this one because we just talked about call centers, and call centers is actually one of the places where I think this is actually fostering a lot of growth. But you want it to notice. You're going to ask someone, your assistant, to run your report to find out how your call center is doing. And maybe you notice you pushed out a change in your call center calls are going up. People are spending more time on the phone. Another way to look at this, looking down the line, is you actually don't want to ask an assistant or an analysis to run that report for you. You actually want AI to actually tell you what's going on. So you might have your Salesforce analytics actually send you an alert saying that your time on calls is actually increasing. I noticed that this happened after you pushed out a major release. You might want to take a look at it and see what's going on. You might even take that further and you might actually have it say, we noticed that this problem, you want it to actually take corrective action for you, kind of eliminating that need for you to get involved and understand what's happening. But you've developed these processes and AI to actually help you figure out how to do that on its own. So it's kind of a mindset change where you're being reactive and you're thinking about how your business works. The change is really for you to develop these processes in AI and ML processes and way of thinking to actually do that for you. So it's telling you what's going on instead of you asking what's happening to my business. And I think that's actually going to be the big changes coming for small business as well. As groups like Salesforce or Microsoft or Google or whoever your support vendors are, they're going to be giving you tools like this, and it's going to be important for you to really take a look at it and see how it's going to affect your business. All right, so what I wanted to do is kind of give you a quick demo of kind of what we said. Has anyone here logged in and started using and taking a look at AIML or ChatBard? A few of you have. I really want to challenge this group. I want like almost all of you to actually this week to actually log into one of these tools and actually start playing with it. I'm going to show you right now how to take some first steps and actually take a look at it. Waiting for things like this is actually the Edge browser. So this is actually Microsoft's. They were an early investor in ChatGPT, so that's actually why I would like to take a look at this one. So really quickly, when we're talking about AI or generative AI, this is actually a type of artificial intelligence that can create new content. So the big change that happened this year was really, we're showing off tools that actually can create content that looks like it was made by a human. So AI/ML is really good at creating things like text. It's really good at writing. It's really good at analyzing processes. It's good for creating images and music. So that's the sort of iterative process that this tool is good at. So if we take a look here, let me get, all right. This is ChatGPT. This is, like I said, is an Edge, but let's just go ahead and get started here. Let me see if I can get this to work. I need to create a presentation about artificial intelligence to a group of my friends at the Houston Chamber of Commerce this week. The conference attendees will have mixed experiences or not very much experience using the technology. I want to write a brief overview, but I only have a few minutes to wow them. So one of the things I want to notice you here is for everyone who's used Google, right? Show. If you use Google, you're typing keywords, right? You might type in presentation keyword, presentation ideas on giving a presentation, pictures of my dog. The change here that's happening right now is you're typing in what we call natural language. So as opposed to me typing in keywords saying something like presentation examples, templates, something like that, we're using natural language. And so not only am I doing it on this, but as you look at tools for your business, you want to start looking at tools like this where you can kind of just ask what you're looking for. And so that's going to be one of the big changes here as well. So in this example, we've gotten a long explanation of what my presentation might look like, but that doesn't help me very much. So one of the things that I mentioned that GPT is really good at is doing summaries. So I might say something like, that's really long, thank you, but could you summarize this in a couple key sentences for me? It's really quick. And I spelled couple wrong, but we'll see if it can figure it out. So a really good example of something for you to try is taking a document that you have, someone's explaining something to you, or someone's given you a business proposal or something like that, and uploading that into one of these tools and asking questions about it. So you're asking it, this is a really long doc, give me 3 bullet points on it, or give me an outline on it, and using this to help you understand the work that you're doing. This is a really good example of that. So this is actually pretty good. It gave me 4 bullet points of the long explanation that it gave. Maybe I wanted to say something like, can you narrow that down to 1 succinct sentence for me? So we heard from supplier diversity earlier in talking about writing your statements. This is a really good example of being able to use the tool to help you write your business statements. This is a really good tool for you to be able to summarize very long documents. This is something that you're going to do to be able to extend your reach. And for example, I know that the Chamber is sponsoring a trip to China. This is then another ability for you to do business in different languages. I really just want you to think about how to use these tools and let your mind go really wide and open to think about how this can affect your business and how you can use it to change the way that you're working. So another fun thing that we can do, since we're talking about giving presentations, is what I had mentioned, that one of the things that this tool is good at is actually creating content. So people are using this for marketing campaigns, for social networking. It's kind of an easy way to start figuring out to run different campaigns. And so something that I might ask it to do is to actually draw for me. So let's see if we can get this one to work. Could you draw me a picture of me sitting on the beach in Hawaii, on the Big Island? I'm sitting there in the morning during golden hour with a surfboard by my side and my dog. And of course it mixed up daughter and dog, but that's good. That's close enough. Let's see what it comes up with. But you're probably wondering, I'm like, okay, this is all kind of cute stuff. I hope that I'm giving you some examples of how this can affect your business side. In generating pictures, this might be something that you do for presentations. This is something that you're gonna do to kind of inspire you. This is stuff that's gonna go in your social media. And you can see now that image creator is temporarily unavailable. Let's see if we can give it another shot. See if we can get this one. But I think I kind of mentioned to you before that this is an opportunity for you guys to kind of explore and think about these tools. I'm a little bit surprised that more of you have not started to take a look at this, but not so surprised because the technology is moving quicker than catching up to consumers and to business owners. I'm gonna go back one more time to kind of giving you this kind of warning that this is kind of your wake-up call and your opportunity, not only for business owners to enter into different markets. It made it. This is an opportunity for you to think about how these tools are going to work for you because it's happening so fast that this is an opportunity for you to catch up and get ahead of the curve. And this is going to give you an opportunity for competitive advantage. And so I think that that's kind of where the landscape is going right now, is to being able to have these conversations with your computer that you kind of didn't have before. So if we go back to this guy, this was the kind of the one thing that I was telling you about. If you can go back and remember the story I told you about the first time that you used Google, the first time you had a phone, the first time that you were able to search the web for images, the first time that you used Facebook or you used TikTok for the first time, This technology, AI/ML, is the kind of stuff that's actually going to transform your business. So it's giving you the opportunity to kind of incorporate these ideas quickly, to make you move faster, and to make you move quicker, not only for you, but for your employees, right? A lot of the talk has been about how AI and ML is going to displace employees. It's going to replace people. And I actually think, like any other product or any other technology, I'm sure that's probably true for some of the case. But I really actually believe for most of the case, the technologies like this actually enable people to become heroes, right? They can do more, they can be smarter, they can move faster once they learn how to use these tools. And so that's kind of the thing I kind of wanted to leave with you, is to make sure that you guys empower yourselves with these new technologies to improve your businesses and become bigger, faster, stronger. So with that, thank you very much. I think I have a little bit time. I had a little bit time for questions.
One, how do I know when it hallucinates? And two, as a creative, how do I deal with copyright? That image that you brought up could be copyright. If I use it, that's a problem for me as a creative.
So right now, I want to tell you, and this is tough as a creative, don't worry about it yet. So a small business, I don't want you guys to get hung up on that yet. These are things that are getting worked out over time. So this is actually part of the process though, right? As small business owners or as business owners in general, you guys have to do a risk assessment. It's like, do I need to worry about content that I create? If I use AI/ML to write a social media story, who owns that content? You're absolutely right about it. But I don't want you to get hung up on it, because otherwise you're going to get behind the curve. So you need to kind of balance between learning this technology and using this as a superpower inside your toolkit, right, on how to do it. So there's definitely going to be a learning curve on trying to find out what I create, is it mine or not? And a lot of ways that people are dealing with that is they're actually not using the public tools, but they're using these tools being offered as part of your business packages, so part of your support teams. So those of you who are using Google or Microsoft or Salesforce as your backend to run your businesses, a lot of people are leaning on those to be behind the firewall, to use those as the tools to run their business. Question?
Thank you, Mike, for the presentation. I also have two questions. Question number one, if everybody use the same tool, and won't you say the content will become very similar? So how original are you really? And the other issue is that it is encouraging the lazy behavior. So I'm in the education business. My students are using ChatGPT to write their college essays now. So, and they don't want to learn anything because ChatGPT does everything for them. So what's the incentive?
So this was the kind of same argument that happened when Google came around and when the internet came. It's kids are able to copy stuff off of the internet, they put it in their stuff. People are able to scour the internet, they're getting images. You're definitely right. Again, I don't want you to, as you're thinking about this, I want you to think about this as a tool. So if you can think about an employee, here's an example for you. You have an employee that you have employed that's writing your RFPs, they're writing business proposals. This enables them to write better business proposals. It enables them to write them quicker and faster. It allows them to do more. And so as we're learning these tools and as they're using it, I actually like to think that they're not being lazy, as you like to say, but it's turning them into Spider-Man. It's turning them into, Hawkeye or Iron Man. It's giving these tools to them to enable them to be better employees. And so if you look at that from that perspective, this is a net plus for them, and it's good for your business. So it's going to be able to them to become better, faster, more efficient. You're definitely correct that there's a question about, this content that's being created on who owns it or copyright issues. That's definitely it. That gets resolved over time by people over my pay grade. But it's really good that you're thinking about it because we're in early stages, it's actually the people like us who actually use these tools who are actually going to define how that looks like in the future. And so this is a very unique time, whether or not you're using these tools for your business or whether or not you're creating a business in this new world of technology, right? For those of us that are doing startups, for those of you who have existing businesses, who are in tech or not in tech or in manufacturing, this is something that's going to affect everybody. So have a plan.
Okay, we have 3 hands. So I'm going to just call these 3, and then afterwards, y'all can have a conversation.
Hi, I just have a technical question. I usually use ChatGPT through ChatGPT website or application on the phone, but I saw you using ChatGPT through Microsoft Edge, right?
Mm-hmm.
How can you integrate it to the Microsoft Edge? Can you introduce that?
Microsoft was just one of the early investors in ChatGPT, and so that's why they were kind of the first ones to integrate that into their browser. So Microsoft was actually very aggressive, and once they realized that this technology was out and people were getting excited about it, to kind of get that into Microsoft Edge. For those of you who want to integrate these sorts of tools into your business, one of the amazing things that all of these tools have available is the APIs. And so depending on who your vendor is, being able to use these tools and incorporating them into your own software or your own apps or how you do business is actually pretty easy. And I would really encourage you to have your teams think about how to integrate that into the work that you do.
Mike.
Hi.
So thank you. Very interesting, very engaging. Mine's related to the previous question. Just a step back, though. There's so much out there, right? ChatGPT 3, ChatGPT 4, right? Bing, Bard, like, it's overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Where can I start? Like, just to simplify it. Because I've spent evenings jumping through. And at the end of it, it's really fun, kind of cool, but I'm no further ahead.
So for people like you, I'd actually start with Google, because everyone uses Google, and that's actually one of the first jumping points. In terms of small business, I would actually start thinking about using these tools how I learned Google or how I use Facebook. And so actually asking questions like, I'm going to do a competitive analysis, or I want to know what my competitors are doing. You can actually ask it very specific business type questions on how it relates. That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is kind of how I led up in asking you about the technology that inspired you, right? It's like being connected to your family, or the first time that you had an iPhone, or the first time that you wore AirPods for the first time. And think about how to apply kind of those questions to how you're going to use AI/ML and how it affects your personal life. And then you can kind of model that on how you're going to apply it into your business. So for example, if you have a particular business need, just go ahead and ask and start thinking about how you would do that. And if you're worried about that information being put into a public place, go ahead and approach your vendors and say, you want something that's personal and secure for my business. So you can actually start uploading your data into these models and start asking questions about your business.
One last question, and we'll wrap it up.
Mike, you're awesome. Thank you. I just wanted to share with everybody, my barber is a lovely woman, but she's not real skilled at negotiating and dealing with her landlord. She wanted to build her own building, and she was in one of those places, you know what I'm talking about, where there's like 100 different people in the building that do hair stuff. So she went to ChatGPT one weekend and said, can you write a letter to my landlord to tell them I need to go month by month and I don't want to have to pay any penalties? And ChatGPT wrote the letter, she sent it to her landlord, and now she's month by month at the same price that she'd been signing a lease for while she's building her own place. So it's ChatGPT, you think of it as, it does all kinds of amazing, incredible, Star Wars stuff. Maybe it does, but it also does just the basic stuff sometimes really well. So I just thought I would share that real quickly to just add a little bit of perspective to using ChatGPT.
No, I love that example, actually. So going back to what I said about thinking about how you apply this personally, this is a great example, right? It's like something very basic, but a lot of people don't know how to do. If you can think about, when you were starting your business or some of your staff, they might not know how to write a proper business email, or they might not know how to write a business letter or an RFP. And this, even though we're in early times, the content that it actually puts out is pretty good. It writes a really good structured letter. It writes really good structured stories. It lacks a little bit of what I think the people call a humanity into it, but it's 90% there. In the example we just gave, being able to write a business letter and asking to switch from annual to monthly payments, or to be able to just communicate in these normal ways is just kind of amazing. Another example I like to give is it's being able to build your network. Just things like asking these tools on how to build your network or how to communicate or stay connected is very powerful. So again, just wanted to thank everybody for having me here. Don't be afraid. This is something that's coming, and I hope that you guys incorporate it into your business. Feel free to go ahead and contact me on the outside if you guys want to. I'm happy to talk to people about their businesses and how all this technology works. Paul, thank you very much again for having me, and I'll see you very soon.
So did you guys like it? We are actually at the tail end, and we actually finished on time, and I'm really happy for our whole team here. It's a pleasure to have you guys here. I want to if we can bring up the slides, I want to just make some quick announcements that we have, because we have a lot of things going up to the chamber, and so you know what the chambers are. And we have a second half of this afternoon for lenders matchmaking, which I will have Winston LeBay come up. But if I can advance this slide, can you put it? While we're getting that slides, the chamber's been around 33 years serving the Houston business community. Yes, we focus on the Asian business community, but we have those who want to do business with our Asian community, as well as those coming from overseas and using our chamber to really exponentially grow here in Houston. And so we've been doing a lot of different programs. This is one of our big programs. If I may, it's not working, but can you advance it to the next slide, please? As you can see, we have our next week. We're having an amazing business expo. You'll please pick this up in the back of the room. 50 exhibitors, highly engaged, and we're having our Rising 10 Awards luncheon, highlighting the top 10 fastest growing Asian-owned business here. We hope and invite you to attend. It's a ticketed event, and you can be able to purchase your tickets online following that. Is the next slide available? Okay, well, if not, I'm going to have you, yep, there we go. And then the next one after that is our executive business program. It's a 9-week program to really learn the basic principles of business. I know some of you can't really take a full-on 2-year MBA class, but this is a program where you can really learn with industry fellows just how to really grow your business, how to take it to the next level. We'll be starting a program in September. I believe that date is wrong. It's going to be September 23rd. So please mark your calendar. And it also includes a free 1-year membership with the chamber. So we've been doing this for the past 7 years with the support of Wells Fargo. So we're happy to have that. It's going to be both in Mandarin as well as English, the 2 different cohorts. And you definitely learn with other business owners in your disciplines. Our next one is, Spirit of Entrepreneurship. This is our annual fundraising event to celebrate what we're doing. As you know, we're nonprofit. Our job is to help you connect and provide opportunities of trade. All we ask is that you help support our chamber and what we're doing in the missions of building our community as well as building your business. And that's going to be in October 20th. We highly recommend you come and support, and you'll be decked out and dressed up and really see all the leaders of our community come out and support our API community. One last thing, if you're not a member, we ask you to really come in and consider. Even our lowest one is $50 a year. So it's this whole aspect of saying, hey, we want to come that. Different tier levels give you different benefits. If you look in the back of your program, it's our dedicated link where you can sign up to become members of that. We have our members orientation the first Friday of September. And then I believe our website, make sure you check out our website. A lot of pressing information. One thing I can tell you, there's a grant for about $15,000 to $50,000 by Grubhub. Those who are restaurant owners, API. There's other things, there's other opportunities, business opportunities, networking event. As you know, the SBA, I believe, is 70 years that they've been here. They're having different activities throughout the rest of the month of things to go to celebrate with them. So we're grateful for all the things that they've been doing. And then lastly, but not least, our sponsors. We can't really do this without our sponsors. Could you just give a warm welcome, round of applause for our sponsors? All of them who are here, they've chosen to invest in this and to make it free for you guys. Again, there's a lot of resources as well as next week. With that, I'm going to conclude. I'm going to pass this on to Winston LeBay, who's going to go to the second half. It's optional for you to stay, but there's a lot of lenders and here and opportunities that you will meet. I invite you to stick around also to network with people and engage with that. But would you please welcome Winston to give you instructions, and then we'll wrap it up here. And there's a lot of information back here too as our sponsors.